This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
As they got one furlong to go, and it's Shared Sense striking the front and has the lead, but Major Fed is surging late on the outside up in the second deep stretch. It's Shared Sense for Godolphin. Shared Sense wins the Indiana Derby.
And why not? On the outside, Cheese Holland trying to come back for more, but it's Royal Delta and Mike Smith. Royal Delta, the defending champ, is back in her game today, and she's going to dominate in the Delaware Handicap. She's geared down in the final 16th. Royal Delta by 10. The champ is back.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Devil is still really tested here by West, and Pure Romer is coming up the inside, but it's still Devil his due with something left for the final 100 yards, and he comes under the line as a game winner of the 107th Suburban.
West Willpower pulling away, now by 2 with 1 furlong to go. Happy American, the longest shot on the board, running down inside. Rattle and Roll's coming with a fast finish as well. West Willpower needs the wire. Rattle and Roll can't catch West Willpower, the Foster winner.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the show that launched a network, the Equine Forum, all presented by TwinSpires right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch, as always. Very happy to have you in the starting gate with me for the next 3 hours, right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you are accessing your podcasts. Well, I know Saratoga raises the curtain on their 40-day meet Thursday, and Del Mar will follow suit 8 days later on July 21st, but this weekend is every bit as intriguing as any weekend during either of those iconic race meets. Some of you might think that's blasphemy, considering the fact that the stakes quality is so good every weekend at Saratoga and Del Mar. But just look at Belmont Park today. Belmont plays host to 4 graded stakes, including a pair of grade 1s, the Belmont Oaks Invitational and Belmont Derby Invitational. But I always get excited, and my excitement level goes to a new high for a race which is no longer a grade 1, but is still part of that program today, and that's the Suburban. And my excitement level goes to another level when talking about the grade 2 Delaware Handicap, which will take place later today at Delaware Park. I love walking back through the history of our sport, and in many cases reminiscing about the horses that first got me hooked on the sport. Trainer Robbie Medina, a longtime assistant to Shug McGahee. He worked with Shug for about 2.5 decades and has now started his own public stable. He spent a full hour with me on Trainer Talk this past week. And he talked about the fact that almost everyone who makes their living in thoroughbred racing began their love of the sport by being a fan. For Robbie, the horse which first got him hooked was John Henry. That's a pretty good one. For me, it was Easy Goer, then Strike the Gold, and Holy Bull, and Excellent Meeting. Those are on my wall of fame. But the common thread, as it so often is with all of us who make our living working in the sport of thoroughbred racing, is the horse. And that's exactly the reason I love looking back on past renewals of the Suburban and the Delaware Handicap. The Suburban, growing up in Western Massachusetts, the races that I followed most were the races in New York. Belmont, Saratoga, Aqueduct. We'd also get the daily replay show from Suffolk Downs, so I would follow Suffolk. Sometimes we get lucky and get Rockingham. But NYRA was always the constant. Harvey Pack, John Embriel, John Preachy, they would all host a replay show. So following New York racing, the Suburban was always special to me. The Suburban dates back to 1884, when it was contested for the first time at Sheepshead Bay Racetrack in Brooklyn. Today marks the 136th running of the Suburban, which really doesn't take a back seat to many races when it comes to the list of legendary horses who have won it. Names like Busanda, a daughter of Wart Admiral, who would go on to produce Horse of the Year and Hall of Famer Buck Passer. Buck Passer himself would win the Suburban in 1967. Nashua, Bold Ruler, Kelso, Dr. Fager, Foolish Pleasure, Broad Brush, Easy Goer, Devil is Due, Skip Away, Mineshaft, and Invisor. All of those winners of the Suburban. I also love the Suburban for horses like Federal Funds. A horse I remember quite fondly shortly after I had started to fall in love with horse racing. Federal Funds never won the Suburban. He was third in 1994 behind Devil is Due, and again in 1995 behind Key Contender. In 1994, he was 49-1. So yeah, he outran his odds. And he proved that race was no fluke the following year when he finished third at 95-1. Federal Funds, he was such a cool horse. He started 144 times. He won 12 of those, 10 runner-ups, and 20 third-place showings from those 144 tries. He would often be seen in the entries coupled with his stablemate Jacksonport, who made 97 career starts. That's why I get so pumped up for races like the Suburban. It brings me back to the days when I was first starting to get into racing, and some of those names, like Federal Funds, like Jacksonport, like Easy Goer, that resonated with me back then. I love looking back on their impact on the sport and their impact on a race like the Suburban. And it's very similar for the Delaware Handicap. First run in 1937. That was the year the Delaware Park opened, by the way. It was known at that time as the Newcastle Handicap. Notable winners of the Delaware Handicap include the aforementioned Busanda, Miss Grillo, Flower Bowl, Obeah, Susan's Girl, and more recently, Blind Luck, Royal Delta, Songbird, and Elate. I love races that boast that kind of history. Now, there are other graded stakes being run today that might not have that kind of history, but they're not as old either. And they've been won by some pretty nice horses. Winners of the Indiana Derby include Orientate, Brass Hat, Perfect Drift, and Looking at Lucky. Gate Dancer, Black Tie Affair, Roses in May, Fort Larned, and Knicks Go all have their names etched on the trophy of the Cornhusker Handicap, which is renewed at Prairie Meadows this afternoon. So, yeah, Saratoga and Del Mar are on the horizon, but don't miss the opportunity to take in some racing history with several tremendous stakes races coming your way this weekend, in particular this afternoon. And I'm going to talk about as many of those races as I can over the course of the next 3 hours. The guest lineup, every segment full, as it is every Saturday morning for you here on Equine Forum. Flavien Prat going to kick it off in just a few minutes. I'll get a chance to talk to one of the sport's top riders today. He's going to look back on his wins in last weekend's Stephen Foster and the upset win in the Wise Dan at Ellis Park. And he's going to talk about his 5-win day, his encore to those 2 greatest stakes wins. He'll talk about that day on July 4th at Belmont. He'll look back on that performance, and it was incredible. 5 wins on that card for 5 different trainers. So I'll talk to Flavien coming up in just a couple of minutes after this first break. Going to turn my attention to the Fasig-Tipton July sale and look ahead to the rest of the yearling sales with Hunter Sims in the 8:35 segment. Hunter is a partner in Warrendale Sales. He is their director of Bloodstock Services. I'll visit with him to look ahead at the sales. Jed Doro set to join me right around 9 Eastern. He is the director of racing at Delaware Park. We'll talk about the Delaware Handicap and some of the other races on that program today. Unsung Heroes presented by Woodbine comes up at 9:20. And at 9:40, Eric Halstrom, the vice president and general manager of racing at Horseshoe Indianapolis, going to be with me to talk about the Indiana Derby Day program. 10 o'clock, we kick off hour 3 of the program with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully will give you 3 races you can keep an eye on this afternoon. And I mentioned a big long shot among those selections is what I'm expecting. 10:20. Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History, and at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans, turf rider Tim Wilkin. We will talk about the Bob Baffert situation. Churchill Downs Incorporated coming out, extending the suspension of Bob Baffert through the end of the 2024 calendar year. I will ask Dale and Tim if that decision is right or wrong on the part of CDI. Plenty of things coming your way over the next 3 hours. Poll question today, which of these morning line favorites is most likely to win today? Verifying in the Indiana Derby, Skippy Longstocking in the Cornhusker, Charge It in the Suburban, or the Foxes in the Belmont Derby. Those are your 4 choices. Which of those morning line favorites, all of them morning line favorites, is most likely to win today? You can go to @HRN on Twitter to cast your vote. You can do that Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook as well, and I will update the results of that question as we move throughout the morning. All right, Flavien Prat with me next when I come back. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up, and if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Iowa's Festival of Racing at Prairie Meadows takes place on July 7th and 8th and features 8 thoroughbred stakes races. 4 great stakes races on Friday night, followed up by another 4 on Saturday, including the $250,000 Iowa Derby, the Grade 3 Iowa Oaks, and the Grade 3 Prairie Meadows Cornhusker Handicap. Post time for the first race on both days will be 6 p.m. Central. Experience the thrill of horse racing at Prairie Meadows, your favorite place to play. Visit prairiemeadows.com for more information.
Here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, what would be a common misunderstanding between an insured and the insurance company?
Mike, one issue is a policy condition that requires notification when an insured animal becomes sick or injured.
Do you mean in life-threatening situations?
Not just then, but if a veterinarian is called in for treatment other than routine care. Take, for example, if a yearling colt gets his foreleg caught in a fence and tears the skin. The coat is stitched up and everything seems fine, but later the coat develops a systemic infection. Then there is a serious situation that the company knows nothing about.
So the company needs to know, even if it's not a life-threatening situation.
That's right. It's a policy condition. The company has a stake in the health of the animal because of the existing insurance policy. The company might want to have its own vet examine the horse. In most cases, though, just a call or email is all that is needed.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Nicholson Insurance Agency at 859-224-7080. You gotta know Joe.
There are plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet with live racing Friday through Sunday and simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. Come out and enjoy the Summit of Speed, the Florida Sire Stakes Series, and a whole lot more. Watch the action from our Trackside Carousel Club, our Feast in 10 Palms restaurant with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Stitched is revving up with a 3-wide bid. Cuts Revenges down toward the inside play action pass. Hosier's in with a shot. And now set piece has been moved to the far outside. 5 lengths to make up. They're off the turn and Get Smokin'. Set down for the drive. Stitched to the attack. Get Smokin' and Stitched. 1-2. Final 16th. Set piece late on the scene. Down to the wire. Here comes Stitched. Stitched grabs the lead and does it. 46-1. Running down, Get Smokin'. Farther back, either Set Piece, Camp Hope, or Hoser.
Well, in the open of today's show, you were treated to Travis Stone's call of West Will Power winning the Grade 1 Stephen Foster at Ellis Park last weekend. That was only part of the story for his jockey Flavien Prat, who prior to that race scored that 46-1 upset in the Grade 2 Wise Dan aboard the Greg Foley train Stitched in the call you just heard. And you may be wondering what a jockey does for an encore after winning 2 big races in the same day like Flavien did. Well, if you're Flavien Prat, you fly to Belmont and you create your own fireworks with a 5-win day on the 4th of July. What a week. Those accomplishments helped Flavien be named the Jockeys Guild Jockey of the Week, and it is a privilege to welcome him to the Equine Forum here on HRRN. Flavien, always great to catch up, my friend. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been a good weekend.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel as if, and I like to ask, jockeys, I consider jockeys among the greatest athletes in sports. Do you feel as if jockeys and maybe yourself last weekend and on the 4th of July get into a zone and everything just clicks?
I mean, it can happen, where you get into a zone and no matter what you do, it's going to be the right thing. But saying that, I thought I had some good mount lined up for the weekend as well, Well, obviously, Stitch was a bit of a surprise, but beside him, pretty much all my mount had a good chance, I thought.
Do you feel like you were somewhat in the zone and maybe seeing the field or the track a little more clearly, if you will?
No, like I say, I think I was. Maybe I was in the zone, but as I said, I think I was also riding good horses as well, which is, and sometimes, saying that, sometimes you have a good card and, nothing click, but last weekend, obviously everything clicked well.
Stitched surprised a lot of people with that 46-1 upset. Did he surprise you a little bit in terms of the fight and the tenacity that he showed?
Well, when I got to the paddock, his trainer was actually confident. He didn't tell me, you're going to win or anything like this, but he told me that he was going to run a good race and that I should just draw a line on his last race. So, and if you look at it, the race prior to that was actually good. So, I just rode him the way it comes up, and we had a good trip, and he was there for me when I asked him to run, and he ran a good race. Yeah, absolutely. I was obviously a bit surprised that you're fighting for the win, but in the meantime, the trip was good, and the horse did everything right.
Is there a different mindset, Flavien, when you're getting aboard a long shot like that, as opposed to when you're riding a heavy favorite in the race like you did in the Stephen Foster with West Will Power? Does a jockey have a different mindset being the hunter as opposed to the hunted?
I think, the feel in general, when you're the heavy favorite, you kind of the target, where when you're the long shot, you actually, they don't really, I would say they just, nobody really look for you or anything like this. So sometimes it's a bit easier to get a clean trip, I would say.
I'm always curious when I talk to riders, as somebody who's never ridden in a race in his entire life and never will. I'm always curious when I see a horse like Stitched, who is giving his all through the stretch. He had one horse to run down, and that was Get Smokin', and you're getting closer to him. What's that like? What was it like going through the stretch aboard Stitch, trying to run down Get Smokin', and when did you know you finally had him?
Well, I mean, obviously turning form, you travel well, you expect to make a run, and then it's just a matter if you're good enough or not. I mean, it's either the horse is good enough, he's willing to fight and go by that horse, or the other way around. You never know, to be honest, because sometimes you get to the leader and the leader get brave and it just fight back and you can't go by him, and sometimes it's the other way around. So it has to depends on your horse and the horse that you compete against.
A lot of people liked West Will Power in the Stephen Foster, and he ends up going off as the 2-1 favorite that day. To me, watching the race, I thought you set a perfect trip. It was a wonderful ride. Take me through that race.
Got us into the race, going into the first turn. Then I was able to sit right next to the leader, and I was traveling well all the way around. And he was able to get the job done from there. I thought it was pretty straightforward. He has good speed out of the gate, so we used that to get in position, and from that point, we did the rest.
Is he the best older horse in the country right now?
It's hard to say. I think, you got to see what the 3-year-olds are, going to do after the summer. But older horse, yeah. I mean, I thought definitely this race and the race at Fairground was two very impressive races. So, it could turn out anything. Anything could happen with it.
You win those two big graded stakes at Ellis Park, and as I mentioned earlier, you then fly to Belmont, and on the 4th of July, you end up winning 5 races for 5 different trainers. And I'm watching this going, okay, now he's just showing off.
No, as I said, I thought, going to the day, I thought I had some good mount. Then the rain showed up, so I was like, oh, okay, that's not good. I was afraid we would run on the dirt, but luckily rain stopped. We were able to run on the grass, and most of my horses liked it. They liked the cut, and they ran their race, and that's what happened. So it was a great day. It was nice, as you said, to win for 5 different trainers. Getting some opportunities. It's nice to get things rolling before Saratoga.
Yeah, your resume speaks for itself, Flavien. You don't need to state your case for any trainers or owners out there. They all know who you are. They all know you're one of the top riders in the sport today. But when you have a 5-win day and you win races like the Stephen Foster and the Wise Dan in the same day, do you think that helps pick up some heads and maybe attract a little more attention your way as you get ready for meets like Saratoga and Del Mar?
I mean, it certainly won't hurt.
Yeah.
It probably helps. It's always good to, show that you're in good form, that horses are running well for you at the moment. And, I don't think it would hurt.
That's the one thing that always strikes me when I talk to some of the top riders, and John Velasquez, Javier Castellano, a lot of these guys, Irad Ortiz, they're out there every morning just like you, working horses, talking with trainers. Their agent is bringing them around to different barns in the morning. You would think, hey, if you've got that kind of resume already, you don't need to get up in the morning. You can sleep in and you can come out there for a 1 o'clock post and just do your thing. It doesn't work like that, though, does it?
Yeah, but you're only as good as your last mount anyway, so you still have to work and improve because, as you said, everybody else is working hard and try to improve. So you can't just live on what you have now. It's just the way it is. That's how life is anyway.
Yeah. We talked about that stretch run with Stitched, and then we talked about the beautiful trip you got with West Will Power. If you get into a battle through the lane, who's the toughest jockey in the game today to outfinish?
There's a lot of guys that are actually really tough. I think you got to respect every one of them. Some have more experience or are more aggressive. But to get one name like this, I couldn't get you one name. But I think they all really talented, and as I said, they have different quality.
I got a feeling if I asked other jockeys that question, your name might come up as maybe one of the tougher jockeys to get past in the stretch. And talking with Jockey Flavien Prat here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Flavien, let's fast forward to the horses you're going to be riding Saturday afternoon in the Belmont Oaks Invitational, which is the 8th race on the program at Belmont today. A Spray is the horse you're going to be aboard for trainer Chad Brown. As a matter of fact, you're riding in a couple of stakes for Chad. Let's talk about A Spray. Tell me more about A Spray.
Filly that rode for the first time at Pimlico last race, and I was impressed by her run. I thought, didn't have much experience, and yet she ran a huge race. I think the distance won't hurt. So yeah, we expect a good run from her.
How much time do you spend looking at the competition coming into a big race like this?
Not as much as some guys. It's just that I like to go out there and have an open mind and ride my race. It's sometimes the problem with that I've got with looking at the PPs over and over is that it feels like you then you get to the gate and it just doesn't happen the way you think it's going to happen. So obviously you want to know who has a chance, who you think doesn't, but that's I get a general idea, but that's about it.
John Velasquez has often told me, and Edgar Prado was on the show with me last week, and he told me the same thing, that you want to have those multiple plans in your head when the gates open, because if things don't go the way you expect them, which is probably the majority of the time, you have to have a plan B and a plan C. Are you that type of jockey too, or do you like to just kind of ride the race and let things unfold the way they unfold?
I like to ride and let things happen. But yeah, as Johnny Velasquez or Edgar Prado said, you want to get an idea of how it could unfold, but and just go from there.
Well, A Spray is the only horse in a stakes race Saturday afternoon that you've ridden before. You mentioned the win last time out, so you are familiar with A Spray. You're not familiar with Redistricting, who is your mount in the Belmont Derby Invitational. Tell me a little bit more about Redistricting and how you approach a race when you're riding a horse for the first time.
I had the chance to ride him a few times in the morning, so I get an idea of how he could react. But saying that, I just watched his first race, just like everybody else. I was pretty impressed by the way he did it. And if Chad Brown's got him into the race, it just tells you that he has a lot of confidence in the horse to run a big race.
Yeah, his only start came in that maiden race, and he won it very impressively. And as you said, so many people were impressed with him, including Chad Brown and yourself. Can a horse overcome that lack of experience simply on talent alone?
Yeah, I think so. But as you say, you need talent. You need a lot of talent and a good mind. But I think he could. It seems like, as I said, that the horse is talented, and it seems like he has a good mind. And I mean, he has nothing to lose anyway. If he wins, it's great, and if he get beat, well, it's no big deal. It's only his second race, so we'll see how he wins.
Yeah, the Belmont Derby is 1.25 miles on the inner turf. What's the ideal trip on the inner turf course going 1.25 miles at Belmont Park? Do you want to be up close? Do you want to be further back? What's the ideal way to ride that course?
Well, I think as long as your horse is happy, that's the main thing, and depends on how you draw as well. So there's a lot of factors, but it's a fair track. I've seen horses coming from behind, from the lead. So I think as long as your horse is happy, and that's about it.
In the next race, the Grade 3 Victory Ride, you'll get a leg up from your friend Brad Cox aboard Dazzling Blue. Obviously, you and Brad team up a lot to win races. Here's another one that is undefeated, but it's going to be your first time riding Dazzling Blue. What do you know about Dazzling Blue?
Nothing. No, to be honest, I haven't watched the replay yet. But I mean, she's 3 for 3. So obviously a good resume, and if Brad Cox put her in the race, it means that he really likes her. So I've got to watch the replay and see how she runs. But I mean, 3 for 3, it's always a good sign anyway.
Yeah, well, I can tell you one thing. Regardless of whether or not you've been aboard these horses before, Flavien, they are lucky to have you as their jockey, and all the best coming up later today, and safe trip every single time you get a leg up, and let's stay red hot. Let's go win another 5.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your kind word, and yeah, hopefully we can get some winner again.
Thanks for taking the time, my friend.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Jockey Flavien Prat here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Going to be a busy man this afternoon, and I love his candor when I ask him those questions. And, Dazzling Blue, what do you know about Dazzling Blue? Nothing. He's never been aboard her before, so he's going to have to learn as he goes, but she has a lot of early speed. I'd expect her to be forwardly placed, if not on the lead, and Flavien as good as it gets when it comes to figuring these horses out. So my thanks to Flavien for taking time, and congrats to him on that huge week last week that earned him the Jockeys Guild Jockey of the Week title. Time now for your Legends of the Turf. When I come back, I'm going to welcome Hunter Sims from Warrendale. He's going to look ahead to the Fasig-Tipton July sale coming up this week and give you a preview of how the yearling market looks coming in to 2023. That's all ahead right after your Legends of the Turf.
Shortly before 4 p.m. on October 18, 1952, 7 thoroughbreds from around the world answered the call to post with the first ever Laurel International at Laurel Racecourse in suburban Washington, D.C. And there was a solid, noteworthy field on hand to contend for the top honors. Niederlander from Germany had Ovi Skurlock in the irons, and he came into the race as the winner of the German Derby of 1950. Indian Hemp from Canada was the only 3-year-old in the race, and was therefore in the receipt of £6 from the others while having the services of the redoubtable Johnny Longden in the irons. Will Win, an English Invader by Pink Flower out of Saracen by Donatel II, was to be ridden by Emmanuel Mercer. Zucchero, another English Invader, piloted by Cheeky Charlie Smith. Rui from America, and the most highly regarded of the 3 American horses in the field, had the services of Johnny Adams. Greek Ship from the Brookmead stable had Eddie Arcaro up. Plater, the Pride of Maryland, was the 3rd American entry. John D. Shapiro, the Laurel president who dreamed of the actuality of the race, was about to see his dream unfold. At the start, which went off without a hitch, Zucchero went to the front, but rider Charlie Smith took him back off the pace, allowing Indian Hemp, the Canadian 3-year-old, to go to the front to set the fractions for the first half mile. Johnny Longden, born in Canada and aboard the Canadian Vader, was a noted master at controlling the pace of a race on the front end. And as they went past the half, Greek Ship moved up along the fence to take the lead, and the German champion Niederlander moved with him on the outside to make it a troika up front, dueling for control. Then Greek Ship and Niederlander pulled away from Indian Hemp, and those two were heads apart going to the far turn, matching powerful strides. Greek Ship was the first to give way, while the rest of the field began to close ground and bunch up as they swung around the turn in what was rapidly becoming a superb horse race. Zucchero and Will Win were moving fastest of all as they came to the top of the stretch, where the cagey Englishman, Emmanuel Mercer, got Will Win down along the inside to save ground to get to the front. As they came pounding down the lane, the Hasty House Farms Rui, one of the American entrants, came flying down the middle of the racetrack, with a wily veteran Adams putting all his skills to use to get the last possible ounce of run out of his mount. It was too little, too late. Wilwin crossed the wire a 2-length winner, Rui second, Zucchero third. Then came Niederlander, Pilaster, Greek Ship, and the fully spent early pace setter Indian Hemp. Arcaro, who rode Greek Ship, said after the race, quote, "No excuses. Those other horses just ran on by me too fast. I'd have given my right arm to win this race, but my mount ran one of his poorest races," unquote. Manny Mercer, the winning rider, was beside himself when he leaped off to hug his mount in the winner's circle. He had ridden a perfect race, keeping his mount off the pace in 6th place in the early going, allowing the early speed to kill each other off, then deftly driving through along the fence, turning for home. During the presentation ceremony, Will Win was accorded a huge ovation by the crowd, and that cheering continued on in a great display of international sportsmanship. That October day in 1952 at Laurel in Maryland, and the running of the very first international, indeed a great moment in thoroughbred racing.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Colonial Downs summer racing season is here. Weekend racing returns every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with a first post of 1:30 p.m. Back this year is our popular 12% takeout Pick 5, which is now offered twice daily. We're also introducing the all-new Old Dominion 6, a $1 traditional Pick 6 with a 15% takeout. Join us for our biggest days of the season on August 12th for the Colonial Downs Festival of Racing, which features the Grade 1 Arlington Million, and September 9th as we wrap up the season with the Virginia Derby. Colonial Downs, rich history, bright future.
Indiana's biggest summer sporting event is Indiana Derby Day. The 29th running of the Grade 3 $300,000 Indiana Derby and the 28th running of the Grade 3 $200,000 Indiana Oaks will headline a day of 8 races with purses in excess of $1.1 million. The event includes a $3,000 Indiana Derby mega bet drawing, a cigar rolling station, an Indiana Derby hat contest, and 2 photo booths. It's all happening at Horseshoe Indianapolis, Saturday, July 8th. First post is 12 p.m.
Are you ready for some summer fun? Then head to Laurel Park for the Hotter Than July Summer Sizzlers. With 11 stakes totaling $1,075,000 over 3 weekends, you won't want to miss out. Whether you're a horse racing fan or just looking for a fun day out, the July Summer Sizzlers are sure to entertain. You won't be disappointed. The July Summer Sizzlers, excitement for the whole family. Visit laurelpark.com/summer-sizzlers for more information.
The thrill of world-class racing is just beginning at Toronto's Woodbine Racetrack. Kick off the weekend's action now with racing each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, beginning at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, with Thursday twilight racing being added on May 25th. With more than $64 million in purses this season, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with the top turf racing in North America over the prestigious E.P. Taylor Turf Course. You won't want to miss racing at Woodbine. For wagering updates, handicapping tips, racing news, and more, visit woodbine.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
She dares the devil, strikes the front of the 8th pole. Swiss Skydiver's trying hard, but she's still second. Not today for Gamine. It is She Dares the Devil, turning back Swiss Skydiver, Gamine, and all the rest. She Dares the Devil, scores in the Oaks.
And Classic Empire clear by 2.5 lengths to Not This Time, is finishing on determinedly. He's wandering about just a tad. Classic Empire to the 16th, about a length and a half. Not This Time is gradually wearing him down. Classic Empire, Not This Time. Classic Empire by a neck. Not This Time.
An Angel of Empire has ranged into the lead here. Two Eagles River drops back on the inside. Toward the outside, King Russell is running on. Reincarnate in the second flight with Airtime and Rocket Can. Angel of Empire and Flavien Prat. Angel of Empire wins the Arkansas Derby and wins it clear.
How's that for a trifecta? Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires here on HRRN. Mike Penna with you as always. She Dares the Devil, Classic Empire, and Angel of Empire, just a few of the horses who have helped build the sales empire that is Warrendale Sales. And I now have the privilege of welcoming Hunter Sims, who is a Warrendale partner and the director of Bloodstock Services. Hunter, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good, good. How was that little trip down memory lane for you?
That was very nice, very nice. You know, it's always exciting to have good graduates on the race course. So it was very nice.
There have been so many big name horses that have come through the Warrendale consignments over the years. How do you sum up the overall philosophy and approach of Warrendale that's led you to have so much success?
Well, I think it first starts with the breeders and the clients that we have and that we've cultivated over the years. You know, Kitty started Warrendale back in 2000. I didn't come on until 2010 with her, but I think the breeders are the ones that allow us to sell their animals. So it starts with them, and we're able to represent them at the sales and promote those equine athletes. And so that is really what it has allowed us to prosper and grow and sell grade one Saturday horses for people.
People are going to hear horses in the background. You're at the Fasig-Tipton Sales Grounds here in Lexington getting ready for the July sale, which comes up this week. We'll talk more about your consignment there in just a minute. So if folks hear some horses in the background, that's kind of a cool thing. You're actually at the barn right now. Walk me through, Hunter, the process of getting a young horse ready to come to a yearling sale like this.
So for us, we usually start our recruitment in February and March, just because the clients are still going through breeding season. They don't really want to think about yearlings in the sale because those don't happen till the summer and early fall in September. So what it takes is, you know, for most people, it's a lot of, once we get the horses and we get the horses entered, they start a sales prep process, usually 60 to 75 days out from the day of when that horse would typically sell. So these horses that are selling in July, they've been in sales prep since around Derby time. And within that, they do a lot of hand walking. Some people pony their horses. Some people use an exerciser. Some people swim their horses. Every program is different, and they really customize their program to what the horses need. And we don't have our own farm, so a lot of our clients have their own farms. They have their own programs, and so it's very, you know, specific to each horse. So kind of they bring the horses up in the morning, they let them eat, they'll do their morning work. In the afternoon, the horses will get groomed, they'll get brushed. You try to get their hair coat, you know, slick and shiny and sales ready, and that's done by giving them, you know, flaxseed and corn oil and the right kind of nutrients in order for them to be at their peak when they hit the sales, and then kind of work with them standing and showing and what they would be doing at the sales. So they have a good program, and they've learned a lot of lessons before they actually get to us here at the sale. And then when they come to us here at the sales, we'll typically have them for an average of 3 or 4 days. And at that point, we have our staff and, you know, people entrust us to show them, and we'll market them to prospective buyers.
Is 3 or 4 days enough time for you or Kitty or the Warrendale team to look at a horse and get a sense of whether or not they have that quote-unquote it factor and can turn out to be a pretty good racehorse one day?
You know, for us, once we start, a lot of these times when we start looking at horses, we'll start looking at them like for fall, like we'll start looking at foals now. Like next week, once the July sale's over, we'll start looking at our clients' foals. And at that point, we'll have an idea of what they have, whether they need to go into like a November sale or maybe a January sale, or maybe they want to be held on in September. So we look at these horses every 6 weeks from, say, July to the following summer of when they would be. So we have a good idea of what the horse is, what the horse could be, how the horse possibly could turn out. But over the years, we have learned what certain buyers like. And so we can say, oh, this might be a horse that David and Gordo likes, or this might be a horse that might fit what Donato likes, or, different agents have different characteristics that they see and what they like in a horse. And so when that horse is here for 2 or 3 days, we're able to help promote those horses to those different agents.
That is a great point. By the way, visiting with Hunter Sims, who is the director of Bloodstock Services and a partner in Warrendale Sales. You can go to warrendalesales.com if you want to learn more about their history and the tradition and the big-name horses they've sold and the consignments that they have coming up. It's all there on their website. Hunter, for people that have never attended a sale that might be listening anywhere in the world right now, and the way it works is people will come by your barn, they will ask to see a horse, you or the handlers will bring the horse out, and they'll ask to either see the horse stand or walk or whatever the case may be. What are most people looking to see from a horse just standing there at the sales grounds? It's completely different than when they get to the racetrack. So what are they hoping to see?
Well, the first thing they want to see is what everybody wants to see, whether it's a human athlete or equine athletes. They want to see athleticism. And so when they watch a horse walk, they like to see how a horse moves. Does the horse lower his head and walk on? Does he move forwardly? Does he have a nice loose walk? He's not tight and behind. Conformationally, is he correct in front? Is he a little offset through his knees? Does he toe out? Does he toe in? Does he have a good hind leg? Is he weak through his hock? So there's different characteristics. Again, some agents can live with things that they've had success with on the track. Other characteristics agents might not like that haven't worked out with them, And so once they look at the horse physically, then they would have their vet read the radiographs on a horse. They would scope the horse to see if the horse has nice wide open airway. So there's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through in order to hit the high commercial dollar or even to get your horse sold. So, but again, horses have run with issues. Horses have won with issues. Sesamoiditis has been a big thing for the last few years. And so there have been Grade 1 winners that have had sesamoiditis when we sold them as yearlings, and other consignors have sold. So again, a lot of it is opinion and what works for people, what works for agents, what works for buyers. So
how important is pedigree?
Pedigree, it's like family lineage. I would say that if both your parents never played Division I college sports, I would say that their offspring would have a slimmer chance of obtaining that level. Not to say that they couldn't, but it might just be a little bit less. I think the same holds true for equine athletes. But again, it's a lot of it's going to boil down to the physical. The mayor might have thrown 2 graded stakes winners prior to this horse, and he might be a full brother to a Grade 1 winner or full sister, but that horse might not turn out the same way. But you also have options. If you're buying a filly, you have reproductive options as well if she doesn't turn out, and then you're kind of building that. Now you can kind of build a broodmare band if a filly doesn't work out. So different routes to go.
I love when you go to warrendalesales.com and you look up some of the graduates, and there's a screen that scrolls through the names and pictures of some of the top horses. And we already talked about Angel of Empire and Classic Empire and She Dares the Devil, but there are others. British Idiom is on here. Karina Mia, Channel Maker, Cotton Blossom going back a little ways, right? Exaggerator, Gallego, all of these names. And I love the way you've done that, and it really does speak to the quality of horse that you and Warrendale are bringing to the sales.
Right, and we're not doing it from a large. We're a medium to larger consignment. We'll sell about 300 horses a year, but that's also doing it over 6 sales between yearlings and breeding stock. So it's also including mares and foals. We're not going to sell 400 head of horses, 500 head of horses in September. We're going to sell 115 this year. That's usually our number, 115 to 120, 125. So we like to keep it on the smaller side, but we're big enough that everybody's going to come and look at everything, but we're also not small where we only have 1 or 2 horses. So everybody likes to come and shop through our barns. Kitty and I both are always at the barn. We don't really do too much buying for people because we like to represent our clients when they're selling, and our clients enjoy that both of us are here. If we both see something. If she misses something, I might catch it. If I miss something, she'll catch it, So there's a good relationship that we have by wanting to sell horses and staying strictly to selling horses.
Let's talk a little bit about the horses you're going to be offering at the upcoming July sale, which comes up on Tuesday, by the way. On Monday, Fasig has the July selected horses of racing age, but the yearling sale, selected yearlings, comes up on Tuesday. Tell me about those horses. Is it 8 that you're going to be offering, Hunter?
Yes, we had 2 outs, unfortunately. 2 horses by actually the same sire, Global Campaign, who stands over at WinStar. But we are still left with 8 horses. We have a good mix of colts and fillies. We have some freshman year sires that we're excited about, Maximum Security, an Instagram colt, a very nice Improbable filly that's a registered PA bred. So we have a little bit something for everybody.
From the July sale, do you go right to Saratoga?
Yes, so we'll go from July. We'll do a couple weeks of recruiting for the November sale because that deadline is August 1st, and then we go straight into the Saratoga sale, which will have 9 horses up there, which is bigger than what we've normally taken, but we've had a good couple years up there recently, and it's a great sale to sell nice horses up. So we're going to have nine horses up there.
And then you go right into Keeneland September, I would assume.
And we go right into the marathon of September. We'll have about 115 horses probably at the end of the day with scratches and everything. And September's, that's the biggest yearling sale that there is. Keeneland does a nice job of getting buyers in from international areas of the world. And so, it's a big marketplace that, your horses range from $2,000 to $2 million. So a wide range of buyers there.
How do you determine which of those sales is the correct sale for any specific yearling?
It just kind of depends on where the horse fits. I mean, with September, our thought process is you always want to be at the top 10% of a given session. And if your horse, like maybe you have a book 2 horse that you want to stand out that might be a little bit lighter on pedigree or something, well, maybe you go to Fasig Tipton Saratoga, or you have a early precocious horse that, you want to get July. And a lot of it too sometimes depends on the client. They might have a lot of horses that need to go to September, and they want to try an earlier sale to get some, cash flow. So there's a lot of different things that can come into play as far as whether the horse needs to go to July, whether the horse needs to go to Saratoga, or whether it's September, or even the Fasig Tipton October sale. That's become a very good sale over the last 3 or 4 years. We've had some good graduates come out of it, and we have started pointing horses to that sale that might need a little bit of extra time.
Well, Hunter, there's nobody better than the team at Warrendale, and I really appreciate you taking a little time to spend with me here this morning, talk about the babies and talk about the philosophies and some of the things that go into it. I think it was really insightful. I appreciate it. All the best coming up at the July sale, the Saratoga sale, and then looking ahead to Keeneland too, man. Go get it done.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
All right, Hunter Sims, Warrendale partner and director of Bloodstock Services for Warrendale. Really, they do a fantastic job, and you heard me roll through some of those big names. There have been others that have come through their program that have had a mark on the sport, and if you're going to be out there at the July sale this week, I suggest stopping by and seeing Hunter. Tell him you heard him on the radio, and tell him that you want to take a look at some of those yearlings that they're going to be offering this week. All right, coming up next, I'll get you ready for hour number 2. Plenty more to come. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
With every race, every stride and sprint, winning is everything, especially when you've dedicated everything you have to get there. But winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race is just the beginning of something bigger. An invitation to one of the most anticipated events in horse racing, the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race turns a finish line into the start of your legacy, a starting gate into the world stage, one race into once in a lifetime. Winning earns you an automatic starting position in a Breeders' Cup race, entry fees paid by the Breeders' Cup, a nominator award of $10,000, and a travel award of up to $40,000. When it comes to cementing your legacy, winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race is just the beginning. View the schedule of Challenge Series races happening around the world and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
Attention horsemen, the 2023 Claiming Crown is coming to the fairgrounds in New Orleans on Saturday, December 2nd. The 25th Claiming Crown features 8 races totaling $1 million in base purses, headlined by the $200,000 Claiming Crown Jewel at 1 1/8 miles. The deadline to make horses eligible for the Claiming Crown is November 18th, with entries to be taken November 25th. Eligibility request forms and more information is available at claimingcrown.com.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment. Email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, an update on the poll question here this morning. I was asking you which of these morning line favorites is most likely to win today. Verifying in the Indiana Derby, Skippy Longstocking in the Cornhusker, Charge It in the Suburban, or the Foxes in the Belmont Derby Invitational. And so far, HRRN Nation saying the Verifying is the horse to beat. Out of those 4 morning line favorites, 48% of you voting for Verifying. Only 31% saying Charge It will win as the heavy favorite in the Suburban. I actually like Charge It in that spot this afternoon. 14% for the Foxes, 7% for Skippy Longstocking. Well, if you missed any of those conversations in the first hour of the program, Flavien Prat or Hunter Sims just a few minutes ago, check out the podcast of the show after we finish up at 11 o'clock Eastern. But don't go anywhere yet, because plenty more to come. Hour 2 is going to begin in just a couple of minutes with Jed Doro, who is the director of racing at Delaware Park. Delaware getting ready to host the Delaware Handicap, which comes on the heels of last weekend's Grade 3 Robert G. Dick Memorial and Grade 3 Delaware Oaks. So we're going to get a chance to talk to Jed about the program there and about the Delaware Handicap, and we'll look back on last weekend's races. Unsung Heroes, presented by Woodbine, comes up at 9:20, and at 9:40, Eric Halstrom, the Vice President, General Manager of Racing at Horseshoe Indianapolis, will talk about the Indiana Derby. I'll ask him his thoughts. I'm sure he's going to say Verifying, probably the most likely to win. But that's a competitive race. I'm not sure Verifying has to win that race. Yeah, he's accomplished quite a bit in his career, but he's really not broken through at this level just yet. Maybe today's the day, but we'll see. Coming up at 10 o'clock Eastern to kick off hour number 3, the TwinSpires Triple Play with James Scully. Kurt Becker Stroll Through Racing History is at 10:20, and at 10:30 I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin, to talk about some of the hottest topics, including that extended suspension on the part of CDI against trainer Bob Baffert, now banned from their racetracks through the end of the 2024 calendar year. I'll ask Dale and Tim their thoughts on that. And by the way, if you think you have what it takes to take down Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin, we're going to give you the chance to prove it. The Showdown 2 starts August 5th. And if you missed the first showdown, it was Dale versus Tim. Tim walked away with the top prize. We're going to bring back the showdown again starting August 5th through the Breeders' Cup. And this time it just might include you. One lucky listener will be drawn at random to draft a team of 5 horses and go head-to-head versus Dale and Tim and their teams. So if you think you have what it takes to match strides with Romans and Wilkin, email the show and tell us why you think you have what it takes. That's Mike at horseracingradio.net. 1 entry per email address, and entries will close at noon Eastern on Thursday, July 27th. We will accept entries right up until that point, but we will accept them via email only, and we'll conduct a random drawing of all of the entries on our July 28th edition of I Ask, They Answer. Tim and Dale will do that. They will choose one lucky winner who will join them the following week to draft their 5-horse team right here on the show during I Ask, They Answer. The competition, again, runs August 5th through Breeders' Cup Saturday, November 4th. Romans versus Wilkin versus you. Submit your entry starting now. And looking forward to seeing that. That should be a lot of fun. And I know Dale and Tim had a lot of fun doing that against each other. And it was their idea. They said, let's get a listener involved. And I say, no, it's a fantastic idea. So now you have the chance to prove you can compete with the big two, Romans and Wilkin. All right, coming up next, hour number 2 begins with Jed Doro. We'll do that next right after a 10-second pause for station identification and your Visit Barbados racing update. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Horse players will find plenty of stakes action throughout North America this weekend. The Grade 1 Belmont Derby Invitational and Grade 1 Belmont Oaks Invitational top today's card in Elmont, New York. Trainer Ken McPeak upset the Derby last year with 26-1 long shot Classic Causeway and tries to pull off another shocker with Mendelssohn's March in today's edition. Verifying is the 8-5 morning line favorite in today's Grade 3 Indiana Derby, while his stablemate, Idiomatic, figures to get top billing in the Grade 2 Delaware Handicap. Trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. is the man to beat at Prairie Meadows later today, saddling morning line favorite Imanra in the Grade 3 Iowa Oaks and Skippy Longstocking in the Grade 3 Cornhusker. And that's your Visit Barbados racing update brought to you by Barbados Tourism. Learn more at visitbarbados.org.
If you've been waiting to discover that sweet spot where peace of mind meets the time of your life, then it sounds like you've been waiting on Barbados. You've been waiting to experience a meal that makes you book a flight to have it again. You've been waiting for adventure in the sun, from the majesty of horse racing and polo to the thrill of surfing our playful waves. From the moment you set foot on the island, you'll realize Barbados is exactly what you've been waiting for. Visit jetblue.com/Barbados for special vacation packages.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back, hour 2 of 3. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you along for the ride this morning on the Equine Forum, all presented by our friends at TwinSpires. If you're betting the races this afternoon, as we hope you are, head over to TwinSpires.com to make your wagers. Well, again, if you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, head over to our website, horseracingradio.net. After we finish up at 11 o'clock Eastern, you can check out the podcast there. You can also do that on every major podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Podbean. However you get your podcast, type in Horse Racing Radio Network and enjoy all of our program whenever you get some time to do so. Well, I told you hour 2 begins with a look at the Delaware Handicap. Going to welcome Jed Doro, the director of racing at Delaware, momentarily. But, you know, you look across the landscape of thoroughbred racing now, and I know that the negative storylines, the medication violations, all of these things tend to take center stage because good news isn't sexy. Good news doesn't sell. Well, you got Saratoga on the horizon. You got Del Mar on the horizon. And this weekend, you've got a fantastic weekend of thoroughbred racing that doesn't take a backseat to any weekend in our sport. So enjoy it. Enjoy the good things. And enjoy the Delaware Handicap today, because that is a race steeped in history, steeped in tradition. And I am excited now to welcome Jed Doro to the program. Jed, good morning.
Good morning.
You know, you think about what we're going to see this weekend. Belmont has a big day. Horseshoe Indianapolis has a big day. You have a big day. You had a big weekend last weekend. Listen, man, the racing product right now, on these big weekends is fantastic.
They've been turning out pretty good. I can't complain. And for some great reason, Mother Nature is finally starting to work a little bit in our favor, but I'm not going to get my hopes up because you never know with Mother Nature.
What is the forecast for Delaware Park today?
Currently, we're sunny, fast, and the turf course is soft. It looks like we're going to get through today pretty good, but we got a soaker coming tomorrow from everything I'm seeing on the radar and forecast. But we should be a heck of a nice day, probably a little muggy, but a really good afternoon and all in.
I started the show talking about how much I love races like the Delaware Handicap and the Suburban that's going to be run at Belmont today because of the fact, Jed, that there have been so many big-name industry breed-shaping type of horses that have won those races over the years. And you look at the Delaware Handicap, it dates back to, 1937, the year that Delaware Park opened, and it's been won by some of the greatest ladies that we've ever seen on the racetrack.
Yeah, it is our little jewel here for sure. Kind of what we hang our hat on. And, yeah, you said it. It's the 86th running this year. Purse is $500,000. We did shrink it to 1 mile and 3/16 this year in hopes to convince a few horses to show up that normally may not because the 1.25 miles is starting to make it really – it's getting a little more difficult to convince people to go that far anymore.
Are you happy with that decision from what you've seen from this year's field?
Yeah. We didn't lose anybody, I guess, because of the shrinking, the 16th of a mile difference. Actually, I had a couple people where, if it was 1 mile and an eighth, we might have brought a filly. And, so still debating that. I just hate the idea because I do like these classic distances. We don't run enough of them, in my opinion, so I wasn't comfortable doing this in the first place, but I also said I'm trying to attract the mares that everybody knows, like Clairiere, trying to get, search results, played hard. We were going after them, but it just didn't work out this year.
Don't you think when you look at some of the names that have their piece of history by winning the Delaware Handicap, names like going back to Busanda and Miss Grillo and Flower Bowl, Obeah, Susan's Girl, and then more recently horses like Blind Luck and Royal Delta, Songbird, Elate. Don't you think that there's something to be said when those mares retire about winning at a classic distance?
I think there is. I think that's huge. I mean, I think that's a very special feat. That, not many mares, other than on the grass apparently, go that far in the dirt. The only other one I think about is the other big mare, and we could never get her to come out, Mr. Sheriff's filly. We could never get her to show up here, but we went for lack of trying. It just never worked out. California had all the races there. He never had to leave. So we tried, but we couldn't get him to come out here.
That's a great point, Jed, because the competition for horses, there's only so many big races, right? And once you run, you're kind of on the sidelines for another month or so before you come back and run again in most cases. So the competition is really fierce. And from your perspective, being the director of racing, man, you're always hustling, aren't you?
You're always pointing it out. You're always making sure wherever you are, if they got a nice mare, hey, don't forget, we do have a really nice stake that we do try to, we push it. We push it as hard as we can, but you can only do so much, and owners and trainers decide they want to go a different route. They're going to go a different route regardless. So you can only do so much, but we are on the phone calling people, try beginning in mid-February, March to start really thinking about these races.
What's impressed you most about the field of 6 that you've attracted for this year's Delaware Handicap?
It's a really even bunch as a handicapper. I think you got plenty of horses with some abilities. You can't throw them all. You might be able to throw out one But if you're betting the race, I mean, there's 5 in here. I think they all have legitimate chances. I think the 4-horse could run a really big race, better than you think. But, I mean, it's a legitimate group of really nice fillies and mares that I think are totally level. They're all right in that wheelhouse of this type of horse. I mean, as a gambler, I know I couldn't throw many out. I probably have to wheel this field if I'm playing.
Well, that's the thing, too. Everybody always talks about big fields, and, yeah, we know big fields are what everybody's looking for because they tend to generate more betting interest. But when you have a 6-horse field like this, it's pretty well balanced, and I know that we have a 7-5 favorite in here in Idiomatic, but if Idiomatic doesn't bring her A game, it's wide open. Can you still celebrate that as a director of racing and say, hey, guys, yeah, we only have 6, but we've got a really competitive bunch?
I think it's a great competitive field. The local favorite is going to obviously be Morning Matcha. He supported us and ran his filly in our prep for this, and she needed that race over the racetrack. And I know Butch is feeling pretty confident coming into this. When I spoke to him last about this, he's pretty excited. Thinks she's got all the right. He's feeling everything is timing just right for her, is what I took from him.
And he's fresh off that big upset win in the Delaware Oaks last week.
Yeah, that was Paco had a heck of a day. He could do no wrong, old Paco.
Yeah, talking with Jed Doro, who is the director of racing at Delaware Park. The Delaware Handicap comes up this afternoon. 10 races on the card, 3 stakes, highlighted by that Grade 2 Delaware Handicap, which is race number 9, 4:46 Eastern is the post time, 1:46 on the West Coast. So make sure you're tuned in for that one. You said you think the 4-horse Game Stonks could run a better race than people are expecting. Last time out, finished 6th in the Grade 1 Ogden Phipps against Clairiere and search results, so we can forgive that one. Why do you think Game Stonks could run a little bit of a bigger race?
I think she's a better horse than, I know they took a shot for the Ogden Phipps, or in the Ogden Phipps, and I know Rudy wasn't just going to throw her in to throw her in. He feels pretty good about this horse and this choice. Her last start doesn't look good on paper, but I think she's she's a much better horse than she's showing you on paper, I guess. And he's a little quiet, confident about this horse, and she's in with a lightweight. The rider can do the weight. If we did our job handicapping this, hopefully we'll have noses apart. Hopefully they're not all spread out. That's all you don't want. So.
Well, she's going to join some illustrious company if she can pull off a win in the Delaware Handicap this afternoon. Look back on last Saturday's races. You had the Grade 3 Robert G. Dick Memorial. You had the Grade 3 Delaware Oaks that I just mentioned. Foggy Night pulling off the upset there. Talk to me about what you saw in those races, Jed.
The Robert G. Dick was a very, very well-ridden race by Mr. Jorge Ruiz for Grand Motion, which was his 9th Robert G. Dick victory. Which is also very impressive for Graham. The Robert G. Dick, I sat there and I was like, that's horse racing, and that's the type of horse racing you enjoy to watch, especially in person. Mile 3/8, bunch of nice mares, and it was a clean race. Every rider rode a really good race, but Mr. Ruiz snuck up the rail and caught them all at the finish line. I mean, that's what you love to watch.
What impressed you most about Foggy Night's upset in the Delaware Oaks?
Just how just easy she went by the leaders when it was time to go. I mean, she looked like she lugged in a little bit. Some of that, I think Paco does a good job of making things look a little worse than they are sometimes. But she motored by those two on the front pretty, very simply. There wasn't a lot of resistance when she went by. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't expect to see that. And I hope Butch goes on with her, and maybe we see her in the Saratoga and in the Alabama. Kind of hoping that's where he's pointing.
That means a lot, too. Looking ahead to those other premier summer meets, whether it's Saratoga, Del Mar, even getting into the fall with Keeneland, for example. If you have horses coming out of your races and they go on and win graded stakes at those other meets, those other prestigious meets, that makes it's a great marketing tool for you. But is that something, Jed, that you can turn around next year and say, hey, look at who came through this race and look at what they did after they came through our race?
Correct. You definitely can. It's a good, exactly like you said, it's a very good marketing point to point to people, hey man, we may not be the biggest fish in the pond, but we still are. We're decent size, and we seem to get the decent fillies and mares when they show up, in my opinion. So, yeah, I do enjoy that, and I really enjoy horses coming out of our stakes, even if they don't win and show up at another racetrack in another stake and all of a sudden jump up and win. That's even more enjoyable for me.
When you and your team start recruiting, if you will, and talking to different connections about bringing their horses to your races, whether it starts in the beginning of the meet or even, I'm sure, before that, Jed, what are some of the key points you want them to know about bringing their horses to Delaware and racing at your track?
First and foremost, we feel like we have a pretty safe surface, so we want people to know that our surface is a safe surface to race over. Second, a lot of the planning of these stakes are kind of focused around timing for other stakes to jump to and jump from into, if that makes sense. They're set in places where I'm trying to put them where they're 2, 3, 4 weeks after another stake that's in the area that you kind of have a race to stick around in the Mid-Atlantic, so you don't always have to look so far away to run. You're trying to keep you home if you can. That's the plan, and then you're setting it up for them, hopefully, for another stake. And usually for me, it's Saratoga. Because, normally the next meet after the next big round of stakes races after these are Saratoga races. So you're kind of trying to help gear them up for heading to New York and taking on all the big boys.
Geography. I'm glad you brought that up because your location is really ideal to draw from so many different jurisdictions that are not a long distance from Delaware Park. That has to help too.
Yes. The geography is very beneficial as well. Kentucky, it's about, from Louisville, I think it's about a 10-hour van drive. You can do it in 8 in a car. Lexington's probably like 9, just a little closer. So, the Kentucky guys, it's not a real bad ship. New York City, Belmont, I think we're 3.5, 4 hours by van. So, everything is pretty convenient. Monmouth, 2.5. Philadelphia, hour and a half. Maryland, hour and a half. We are pretty locally convinced. The ones that are tough to sway are the guys in Florida, and especially the ones in California. Those seem to be our toughest getters, I guess, to sway them this way. Unless, like I said, they're pointing to go to Saratoga next, then they use us as a stopover for Saratoga.
Yep. Yeah, well, it's a great location. The timing is ideal for these races, and I know that you and the entire team in the racing office work tirelessly to put these programs together. I mentioned that the Delaware Handicap is not the only stakes race on the program today. You have 2 others, the Dashing Beauty, which is going to be run as race number 5, and the Battery Park Stakes. What can folks look forward to in those races?
The Dashing Beauty kind of shocked us. We didn't expect to get as many entries. I know as of now, the 4 out of the Dashing Beauty, Scarlet Stripe has scratched. We still have 9 runners. We got a really nice 3-year-old filly of Diane Marisi's named Miss Bucaro. If she's the real deal, we're going to find out today what she really is. But then it's just a bunch of nice, classy fillies that run short on the dirt. It's a good, again, another a very wide open bettable race, but at least there's some numbers in this for a gambler. There's 9. It's still it's a competitive group. You have the winner of the Ski Pat coming out of Pimlico. You got the horse that ran 3rd in the Ski Pat coming up as well from Maryland. I'm the boss of me. She trains here. So I got 3 in the barn area training on this racetrack, pointing for this race. So, or 4 actually.
Yeah.
You know, I always forget about Malibu Beauty, and she's quietly a very nice filly from Mr. Capuano. So I think the 5th race is going to be one of our kind of exciting events because it's a wide open group.
Well, I think the Battery Park is wide open too, especially if you look at the morning line. Everybody's pretty well balanced. You don't have a big standout in there. That's the 7th race on the program. Would you agree that that's also somewhat wide open?
We were extremely excited leading up, but I know 2 scratches have come out on the Brad Cox warrant has scratched, and the 4-wheeling Springs has scratched. And I am hearing through the grapevine Mr. Pletcher didn't ship Fearless either, but I've not heard officially on that. So it's still a strong 5-horse field, or possibly 6. We did get Doppelganger, and we got forewarned from Mr. St. Louis. And again, Gary Kapp threw us Abracadabra, who is a very good local horse. And riding with Biden last year, ran 2nd in this thing to Tax, and managed to go on and have a heck of a summer-fall campaign. Ended up running in the Pegasus World Cup in January. So, you know, it's another, I mean, if Fearless shows up, this is a really great older horse route race. Kind of a little homage to the Suburban, just not as far.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jed, listen, man, it's been fun to catch up and keep up the wonderful work there. It's been great to look back on last weekend and look ahead to what's coming up this afternoon. Again, 10 races, 3 stakes, highlighted by the Grade 2 Delaware Handicap, which is race number 9, 4:46 Eastern. First post, by the way, 12:30 Eastern at Delaware Park for that 10-race card. Jed, appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the support that you give us here on the network, and anything you need, we're here for you, bud.
Cool. One last thing. Next weekend, we have our first national handicapping contest that we haven't had in about 7-8 years. So just keep that in mind. Next weekend is the NHC qualifier, and giving away 2 seats, a hotel room, and a flight to Vegas.
Ooh, yeah, good stuff. Well, keep it rolling, my friend.
All right, buddy.
All right, Jed Doro here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, Director of Racing at Delaware Park. Yeah, take note of that contest coming up next week as well. When I come back, I welcome this week's Unsung Hero. That's presented by Woodbine, and it's a segment you won't want to miss. And then Eric Halstrom coming your way at 9:40. He is the Vice President and General Manager of Racing at Horseshoe Indianapolis. We'll talk a little Indiana Derby. That comes up later in this second hour. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Exciting stakes racing action continues at Delaware Park Casino and Racing. The $500,000 Grade 2 Delaware Handicap runs on July 8th, along with the $100,000 Dashing Beauty and the $150,000 Battery Park Stakes. Then the $150,000 Kent Stakes on the turf is 1 week later on July 15th. Play in the NHC qualifier that day to win cash prizes and a trip to the National Horse Players Championship. Visit DelawarePark.com for contest brochure and entry form, plus full live racing schedule.
Achieve Equine, makers of Flair Equine Nasal Strips, brings you innovative, evidence-based products for the health and well-being of your equine athletes, like the new Impact Protection Half Pad from Europe, VIP Equestrian, that provides a superior layer of cushioning for the horse's back. Visit AchieveEquine.com for more information on the innovative products we offer. That's AchieveEquine.com. Breathe easy, we've got your back.
Hey everyone, it's the Baron with this week's North of the Border report presented by Woodbine Entertainment. A pair of stakes, the $100,000 Georgian Bay and $100,000 Lake Huron, mark the start of this year's Ontario Sire Heritage Series at Woodbine. Established in 2021, the Ontario Sire Heritage Series is comprised of 3 $100,000 legs and a $100,000 final for 2 divisions, 3-year-old colts and geldings and 3-year-old fillies. In addition to the $400,000 in purses, for each division, there is $70,000 in bonus money allocated to the top 3 finishers in each division at the end of the series. This afternoon's Georgian Bay has attracted 11 sophomores, including Foolish Games. A daughter of Reload, she is undefeated in 2 starts for trainer Michelle Love, who also co-owns the filly. In her most recent effort, the Chestnut was sent off as the 7-5 choice and bested 5 rivals in a 5.5 furlong Tapeta race on May 21st. Love, who is off to a strong start at the 2023 Woodbine meet, expects her filly to take to Woodbine's inner turf course without any issues. 5 3-year-olds will test the Lake Huron waters, including Silent Reserve, a son of Silent Name, who heads into his first stakes appearance off a strong maiden-breaking effort on June 2nd. Other starters include multiple stakes winner Poulin in OT and multiple stakes placed Paramount Prince and Patches O'Houlihan. The Georgian Bay is scheduled as the 6th race on the 11-race card. The Lake Huron is race 3. First post, 1:10 p.m. And that's your North of the Border report for this Saturday morning. For more updates and racing information, visit woodbine.com or follow along on both Twitter and Instagram at WoodbineTB.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Heroes in the world of sports are not uncommon, oftentimes thrusting themselves into the limelight through unimaginable feats.
Back behind the ball, Woods puts it.
And in! He has done it! Tiger is back! Tiger is back on top! Tiger Woods, the 2019 Masters champion.
And breathtaking performances.
Here's how you count to 8, 3, 2, 1. And for the 8th time, college basketball's national championship trophy is coming home to Kentucky.
But behind every great hero, there are others. Individuals who play a crucial role in the achievements of those we read about in the headlines. The ultimate team players, content to stand behind the curtain, embracing their place as a vital part of a sport's success. In horse racing, these are the unsung heroes.
Well, every time I bring you this segment here on the show, I tell you that from grooms to hot walkers to exercise riders to assistant trainers, without those individuals who never find themselves in the spotlight, we don't have a game. It is not possible for this sport to function. They are a vital part of our industry, which is why I refer to them as unsung heroes, and that is the case with Kaylee Level, who is my special guest on the program here today. She is an assistant trainer. She gallops horses for trainer Robbie Medina, who joined me for a full hour this past week on Trainer Talk. And when I asked him to tell me more about his unsung heroes that help him day in and day out, Kaylee was one of the people he brought up. And Kaylee is with me now here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Katie, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, really excited to hear your story, and congratulations on being this week's Unsung Hero. And there were several people that Robbie mentioned, and I know I could have reached out to any one of them, but he had mentioned that you gallop Vivar, who is one of his horses that just won the Chorleywood Stakes a few weeks ago at Ellis Park. And I said, you know what? Timing is everything. Let's give Kaylee a call. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
What is your role with Robbie?
So I am first and foremost an exercise rider, which means that I exercise the horses every morning. But we do all try really hard to work together. So if, the grooms need help or the hot walkers need help, we all kind of try really hard to jump in. Sometimes I'll point out if a horse's leg is puffy or they don't feel great or, it's just kind of keeping on top of the wellness of your horses and trying to communicate with everybody involved with the care of the horse.
One thing that Robbie mentioned to me during that trainer talk conversation this past week was the fact that when a horse like Vivar gets the winner's circle, especially in a stakes race, but certainly any race, it means so much, not just to him, but to the entire team. So when Vivar won the Chorleywood, what did that mean to you personally, Kaylee?
You know, it was so amazing. Like, I want to say that, like, we always believe in all of our horses and expect them to win. But he was a little bit of a longer shot, and he has a really interesting way of training. Like, he's such a goofball going to the track, and he likes to play around and stuff, but he's actually very professional and a very easy gallop once you get galloping. And the whole week before, I was like, I don't know, I don't feel the fire. Like, I don't feel it. You know, I'm like, he's just half asleep out there galloping. And so I was watching the race, and, you know, I was like, okay, he's in a good spot. You know, we broke good, we're good. And then he started picking up momentum, and I, like, stood up off the couch, and I was like, oh, my gosh, he's doing it. He's going to do it. Oh, my gosh, he's doing it. So, you know, it never gets old. And, you know, of course we love winning stakes races, but honestly, we all get just as excited for our claimers as we do for, you know, stakes runners. It's just really great to see all the work and time you put into a horse really pay off.
You said you weren't feeling the fire from him in the mornings when you were getting on him, but of course then he showed up on game day. Does that happen often, where you're on a horse and you're thinking, boy, I don't know if he or she is really ready for a peak effort, and then all of a sudden they surprise you when they get to the races in the afternoon?
Yeah, you know, it really depends from horse to horse. Like, sometimes the horses really kind of feel like a wave that's like building and building, and, you know, you can really tell that they're just ready to rock and roll. But, you know, with some of these older horses that are more professional and know what's up, you know, they don't waste their energy in the morning. They just go out there and they do what they're supposed to do, and then they show up when they need to show up, which is a really cool type of horse to ride, to realize, like, how much they understand what's going on. And the funny thing about Vivar is if he's feeling good, he will put his tail up in the air and gallop like an Arabian. So that's how you know if he's ready to rock and roll. And he's such a trickster. When he's coming off the track, like, if a horse is like a little bit nervous walking by him, and he'll like puff up and like dragon snort and prance with his tail up, and like he gets so much enjoyment out of scaring other horses, which is funny for him. It's kind of a little funny for me, but I feel bad for everybody else. But that's pretty much his tell. So, yeah, he's such a cool horse, though. I'm so lucky to get to ride him.
I want to ask you about some of your other favorite horses that you've had the chance to either be aboard or be around in some capacity. But before I do, walk me back to the beginning, Kaylee. Where did your story begin? How did you first start falling in love with horses?
You know, it's always been a bit of a thing for me. Like, I remember when I was a little kid, you know, waking up on Saturdays before my parents woke up, and I would put on Black Beauty and like play with my toy horses. And when I was a little kid, I would pretend that I was a horse and run around like jumping, you know, sticks and stuff. So I think it was just a real natural progression. And by the time I was 7, I guess my parents got tired of me complaining and telling them I wanted to ride, so they bought me riding lessons. So I officially started riding when I was 7 years old, and that was hunter jumpers. So then from there, I rode hunter jumpers until I hit high school, and we lived in Illinois at the time, and eventing is a big sport in the Midwest, and obviously the off-the-track thoroughbreds are like the champions of eventing. They're phenomenal horses. They're very, very good at eventing. So that's kind of how I got started, like my introduction into thoroughbreds. And I just thought they were the coolest type of horses. So then from there I went to UK just because I was interested in being a little bit like in the heart of thoroughbred country and getting to know more. I worked at Main Chance Farm and started off with broodmares, foals, and yearling prep. Then from there, I started breaking babies at Juddmonte, and I actually got to break Mandaloun. So that's very, very cool for me.
Wow.
So go on and watch him do all the things that he's done. And now he's standing at stud at Juddmonte, where it all started. Mm-hmm. But he was so cool. I remember the first day we galloped him out in the field, I was just like, wow, this a horse. And, you know, it's really rare that you get that feeling that, like, hey, this is a special animal. But I definitely felt that with him. So that's my claim to fame there. Broke babies at Juddmonte for a couple of years, and then I really wanted to move on to riding older horses that were in race training. And Robbie brought me on at Blackwood. That was 3 years ago. And so I've been riding for Robbie for the last 3 years. In that time, I've freelanced out at Keeneland for Andrew McKeever and Sarah Hamilton, and learned a lot because it is different riding on a real racetrack versus a farm versus even a training center. You know, they're all a little bit different. So.
Visiting with Kaylee Level. She is the exercise rider and assistant with Robbie Medina. She is this week's unsung hero for everything she does behind the scenes to make that operation a success. And as you've heard her say, she has been part of so many successful operations in her journey that has led her to this point. You mentioned Mandaloun. Who are a couple of the other horses, when you think back on the ones you've been around, Kaylee, that are always going to hold a special place for you?
So I have two that really stick out. Vivar is obviously one, but we've already gone into some depth about him. So the other one I want to talk about is 3 Technique, and he just won the Wise Dan Stakes, I believe, on Saturday. And he was probably the first, I say big horse, but the first, like, very nice, talented horse that I rode. But he was just such a phenomenal teacher. Like, he was the first horse that really gave me a lot of confidence to ride short. Because for me, I had ridden a lot of years, but with show horses and jumping, you ride long comparatively to, like, what we ride breezing racehorses. So that was an adjustment for me, and it took me a while to feel, like, really confident in my balance. But he was just such a good, steady horse that, you know, he gave me a lot of confidence. And the cool thing about him is that he was easy. Like, he was just really good at gauging, like, how much you could take, if that makes sense. Like, he was easy and he would take care of you, but not so much. Like, he wouldn't just automatically do what you asked. But I do remember it was really funny. One day I was riding a different horse, and we had an older lady that was galloping for us. And, you know, he would be a little tough with me, but, you know, just a good boy all around. But this older lady was riding him, and she was just galloping along, like riding along with a loop in the reins, and he was just, you know, hacking around like a pony. And I was like, man, why don't you do that for me? And then I was like, well, he just knows, like, you know, he's doing his job. And he's just so cool to have that level of awareness about his riders and his job. And, you know, just a super cool horse. He's beautiful, big black colt. So he always has a really special place in my heart, and it's so great to see him going on to do big things. He ran 5th in the Breeders' Cup as well, I believe. So just really exciting to see, like, one of your heart horses doing big things. The other horse is a filly named Mind Out, and she was with us for a while. She ran 3rd in an allowance race at Churchill. That was really exciting for me because that was the first horse that I ever had that went to Churchill, so I got to see her run, and it actually just happened to be the first time I had ever been to Churchill too. So that was a huge deal. And she taught me so much as well, but not she was definitely more of the self-love approach than 3 Technique, because she was hell on wheels to gallop. You know, typical red thoroughbred filly. She was super opinionated, you know, wanted to do her routine, wanted it her way. But she taught me so much about, you know, finessing the horse and, you know, not just going to, like, fighting and muscling a horse, you know, to try and, like, work with them. And, you know, over time, like, I feel like we came to a really good accord, and, you know, she did really well. And so that was a big achievement for me personally, because that was probably my first, like, really difficult, really tricky horse. And not only was she tough, but she would, if you got too much in her face, she'd jump around, she'd throw her head around, which when you're balancing on your tippy toes, going 20 miles per hour, 20, 30 miles per hour, it's a little alarming.
I can imagine. I'm listening to you tell these stories, and you're doing such a wonderful job of describing why these horses are so special to you. And I'm just thinking, again, coming back to the unsung hero angle, I mean, people like yourself and the team that you're surrounded by, and look, exercise riders for every operation around the country and farms where they're breaking babies. I mean, it is so critical to the success of our sport. And I want to, on behalf of the Horse Racing Radio Network team and on behalf of the thoroughbred industry, I want to say thank you to you for doing everything that you do with these horses. And Kaylee, keep up the wonderful work. It has been a delight to hear your story.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you reaching out and, trying to tell the stories for the people that, aren't necessarily in the limelight.
Yep. Yeah, well, that will change one day. Kaylee Level, a rising star, no doubt about it. And appreciate the visit here this morning, Kaylee. Congrats on being this week's Unsung Hero.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. I'm going to be back right after this word from our sponsor, Woodbine.
The thrill of world-class racing is just beginning at Toronto's Woodbine Racetrack. Kick off the weekend's action now with racing each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, beginning at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, with Thursday twilight racing being added on May 25th. With more than $64 million in purses this season, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with the top turf racing in North America over the prestigious EP Taylor Turf Course. You won't want to miss racing at Woodbine. For wagering updates, handicapping tips, racing news, and more, visit woodbine.com.
If you know someone you feel deserves to be recognized as an unsung hero, email their story to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net, and I will recognize them in the weeks ahead. Coming up next, Eric Halstrom joins me from Horseshoe Indianapolis to talk a little Indiana Derby. Great card there today. We'll talk about it next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Adina Stallions set the gold standard, all number one in their category. Point of entry, the number one stallion by black type and greatest stakes winners standing in Canada.
Oh, the classy point of entry would not be denied.
Shaman Ghost, the number one second crop sire standing in Canada.
It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile.
Signature Red, the number one stallion by percentage of black type winners standing in Canada.
Signature Red won his second Highlander in a row.
And Silent Name, the number one stallion by percentage of black type performers standing in Canada. A list that includes Grade 1 winner Silent Poet.
Silent Poet in front, Admiralty Pier out the ground, but Silent Poet has won the Highlander Stakes.
And don't forget Adina's new sire, American Guru. His first crop are now yearlings of 2023. American Guru, the son of Unbridled Song, whose family have already set their gold standards around the world.
A Grade 1 winner of nearly $2 million, Silver State hails from the sire line of legendary Claiborne stallion Danzig. And his second dam is full sister to Kentucky Derby winner Monarchos. After winning the Oaklawn Handicap, Silver State defeated Knicks Go in the Grade 1 Metropolitan Handicap. Now his first foals have arrived. Grade 1 winner Silver State, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Indiana's biggest summer sporting event is Indiana Derby Day. The 29th running of the Grade 3 $300,000 Indiana Derby and the 28th running of the Grade 3 $200,000 Indiana Oaks will headline a day of 8 races with purses in excess of $1.1 million. The event includes a $3,000 Indiana Derby mega bet drawing, a cigar rolling station, an Indiana Derby hat contest, and 2 photo booths. It's all happening at Horseshoe Indianapolis, Saturday, July 8th. First post is 12 p.m.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Carmel Road has got the lead at the top of the stretch. Up on the outside, it's Eyeing Clover who's ready to challenge. Eyeing Clover to the outside of Carmel Road, and they are lined up here on the grandstand side. Up on the far outside, General Banker, and from out of it, Raise Kane has taken the lead. It's Raise Kane who's come from the back of the field, has now passed them all. Raise Kane is well clear inside the final 16th. Raise Kane is going to draw away and win the Gotham. It's Raise Kane over Slip Mahoney, who had a late run as well. Then a photo. Eyeing Clover is there with General Banker in 1 minute 38.09 seconds in the Gotham.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna with you for this 3-hour ride here on this Saturday morning. Raise Kane with the victory in the Gotham. That came in March at Aqueduct over a muddy racetrack. That was the last time he graced the winner's circle, but he's knocked heads with some of the big boys over his last 3 in the Bluegrass, the Kentucky Derby, and then the Matt Winn last time out. He is the lone graded stakes winner among the field in today's Indiana Derby at Horseshoe Indianapolis, and he is 10-1 on the morning line, so potentially some good value there. But the favorite is Verifying, and the poll question I threw out to you this morning, and so many of you taking time to weigh in, I certainly appreciate that. Which of these morning line favorites most likely to win today? Is it Verifying? Is it Skippy Longstocking in the Cornhusker, Charge It in the Suburban, or the Foxes in the Belmont Derby Invitational? And Verifying continuing to hold a strong lead here. 45% of you saying it is Verifying who is most likely to win. So you're not scared of Raise Kane or anybody else in that Indiana Derby. By the way, that race is race number 12 on the program today, 6:40 Eastern, 3:40 Pacific time. The post for the Grade 3 Indiana Derby. The Indiana Oaks precedes that one. That race also a Grade 3. Run is race number 11 at 6:03 Eastern time. Going to be joined momentarily by Eric Halstrom, who is the Vice President and General Manager of Racing at Horseshoe Indianapolis. We'll get a chance to talk to him, not just about the Indiana Derby, but we'll talk about the Indiana Oaks and the other races on that program today, too, because it is a stellar 12-race card that they've assembled. And Eric is indeed with me now. Eric, good morning.
Good morning. Really happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I was just going through the results of our poll question, and our listeners, 45% of HRRN Nation, saying that Verifying is the most likely morning line favorite to win today, and he's 8-5 on the morning line in that Indiana Derby. If you go by his near misses, he could be a real handful coming up later today.
I would think that's the case. He schooled out there in the paddock yesterday, and he is a good-looking thing, I'll tell you that. And I talked to Ricky Giannini, Brad's assistant here, and Ricky's measured in his words because he doesn't want to lead too far, but he seems to feel pretty good about the chances that Verifying is going to run pretty good today.
You think about horses that have added their name to the record books with a win in the Indiana Derby. Horses like Orientate and Brass Hat, Perfect Drift, Looking at Lucky. There have been some really top-notch horses to come through and win the Indiana Derby. This field here has some real quality runners, too. Tell me about the entire field and how this all came together, Eric.
Yeah, I will tell you there's 2 scratches in so far today, and
okay.
That's probably the best place to start. One of them is, kind of critical. The 3-horse Active Fool is out. He won't run today, so that clearly he was going to be on the pace or something right up there with, likely with Verifying near the front of the pack. The other scratch is the 6, Stay in Your Lane. So, it's an interesting. When you're in a Grade 3 for $300,000 in this part of the country, there's a lot of options for 3-year-olds. And, the Iowa Derby is, this weekend. The Iowa Derby just went. And, there's just a lot of things that you can do. But this is a spot where, Brad Cox has 30 stalls here and brings them in, brings them out. And, we've kind of been under the understanding that Verifying was meant for this position, and I think most people around the backside and in the region thought that was the case. So he carries a big name, and I think there are some others that may have ducked and gone a different direction. We'll see if that's the case, but I'm happy the way it turned out. And when you look at the rest of the card too, we can really, really have a big day here today.
Yeah, talk to me more about some of the other races. I mentioned the Indiana Oaks, which is the race preceding the Indiana Derby. That's certainly going to attract a lot of attention, but there are other races too on that 12-race program that people aren't going to want to miss, including 8 stakes races. So a really quality group of horses set to go too.
Yeah, you mentioned the Oaks, and that actually is, if you look at historically kind of how the horses coming out of here and going on and doing more, the Oaks has been more productive than our Derby, and our Derby's done just fine. She Dares the Devil. We laugh around here saying that it'll be the only Indiana Oaks winner that ever wins the Kentucky Oaks that prepped in the Indiana Indiana Oaks, because they had that odd September Derby and Oaks a few years ago.
That's right.
There's just a whole lot of quality in the fillies that come through this way. There's one scratch in that race today for everybody who's listening. The one horse, Cotton Candy Annie, she is out today. But when you go through the rest of the card, we're a little bit watching the weather. We've had some really good drying weather the last few days, but we did have a storm blow through here. It looks like it's gone through, and now for at least several hours, we're clear and we should be drying out again. But we'll see how the turf plays today. We have every intention of getting all 4 turf races in, especially the two listed ones near the end, the Schuster and the General Assembly. And those fields are really stacked with some nice fillies and some boys in the other one. A lot of them shipping in from Kentucky and different parts of the country. So the way this card kind of shaped up, we feel really good about.
When I start looking at some of the names showing up, I don't just look at the horses. When you really want to see how a racetrack is doing in attracting some of the top connections, you start looking at some of the trainers, and I see Steve Asmussen and Brad Cox and Ken McPeak all being big supporters. Randy Morse sending taxed in there for the Grade 3 Indiana Oaks. That's a big deal when you start getting the big barns showing up for your big days, isn't it?
It's big for us, and I think, Mike, I think it's an indicator of just kind of generally where this program in Indiana is going. We're having just a heck of a meet to start. We're 50 days in or something, give or take a day or two from that point, and our handle's up 40% over last year's record numbers. If you go back to 2019, but we're likely to have doubled that number by the end of our meet this year. And part of it is just having high quality horsemen with us. And there's a lot of things that go into that. Some of it's location. Some of it's a really, really great mains track. Our surface is very safe. Our turf course is, riders brag about it when they come off it. So I think there's a place for Indiana in this region for developing horses, for sending horses that, might need to train on a surface that's just perfect for them. And you see it on days like this. These guys are not afraid to send horses, and, some of them are sitting in our barn area anyway. They don't have to travel very far to get here. So there's a great future here in Indiana and the way things are going, and the trajectory kind of shows that right now.
What's the most significant development with the Indiana racing program over the past couple of years that's led to the type of success that you're having now, Eric?
I would say I think that there's a very solid state-bred program here. Obviously we all know where the foal crop has gone over the last 10, 15 years, and the Indiana crop has been relatively consistent. And if you put it on a chart versus other programs, it would stand out. There's just no question about it. It allows us to run full fields, and you guys know as well as I do, and everybody knows that a full field of competitive horses is equally or more attractive than a short field of high quality horses. So they're the backbone of what we're doing here, the Indiana breds, the sires, the locals. But you've also got Brad Cox, you've got Steve Asmussen, you've got Carl Broberg, you've got they're just a keep going with the list of folks that are here that Mike Maker, who's got stalls, and it's a good spot for the future. We built a barn last year, another 105 stall barn, and this year we didn't have enough stalls when time came around. So I guess there's probably some other places that would be happy to be in the situation that we're kind of facing right now.
Well, Eric, it's a special day. I know it's a busy day for you, so I won't keep you, but I'll remind listeners, 12 races, 8 stakes, the Grade 3 Indiana Oaks, the Grade 3 Indiana Derby, highlighting that card today. Wonderful fields and great wagering opportunities, and we hope people take advantage, and really appreciate you spending a little time with me here this morning, my friend. Keep it rolling.
No, it was my pleasure. I appreciate the time.
All right, Eric Halstrom, Vice President, General Manager of Racing with Horseshoe Indianapolis. When I come back, I'll take a quick look at some historical dates in racing history and get you ready for hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed for Sales, Kentucky.
I'm 54, so basically, it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save, even in your 50s, can really make a difference.
Well, right now, saving seems hard to wrap my head around. Plus, with the way this year's been going...
Hey, listen, it's okay. You still got this. Just go to aceyourretirement.org. It's an online tool from AARP that can help you get your retirement savings on track no matter your age. It's free and only takes about 3 minutes.
I like 3 minutes.
Yeah, at aceyourretirement.org, you'll chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer a few questions and you'll get a personalized plan and tips to help boost your retirement savings. Tips that are easy to understand and tailored to your lifestyle.
I like that too.
Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Just head to aceyourretirement.org and make your plan to start saving for retirement.
Thanks.
That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, Mark emails the show and says the most likely winner today among the 4 morning line favorites I gave you in our poll question is the Foxes, who goes in the Belmont Derby Invitational. Just 17% of you agreeing with Mark on that sentiment. Verifying continues to lead that poll, 48% chiming in on our Twitter feed and Facebook to let me know your thoughts there. Time now to take a look at a historical date or two in racing history as it applies to this weekend. And only one here today, and I'm going to bring this up with Dale and Tim in I Ask, They Answer in the final segment of the show. But July 8, 2000, the anniversary of General Express setting a world record when he went 5 furlongs on the turf and 54.60 to win the Decathlon Stakes at Monmouth and Oceanport, New Jersey. General Express lowered the mark of Classy Briefcase, who had set the record previously June 8, 1991. That record was 54.97, but General Express broke the record on this day in 2000. 2 hours down, 1 to go on today's Equine Forum. When I come back, I'm going to kick off Hour 3 with this week's edition of the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully will join me to share his thoughts on a few races you'll want to keep an eye on later today, and the word is he has a bomb in one of the big races this afternoon he's going to share with you. At 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History, and at 10:30, Dale and Tim will be with me for I Ask, They Answer. If your local station is leaving us at this time, continue listening to the third hour of the show nationwide on Sirius 216, XM 204, in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680, or streaming worldwide at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is next, right after I pause. 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
As they got 1 furlong to go, and it's Shared Sense striking the front and has the lead, but Major Fed is surging late on the outside up in the second deep stretch. It's Shared Sense for Godolphin. Shared Sense wins the Indiana Derby.
And why not? On the outside, Cheeseland trying to come back for more, but it's Royal Delta and Mike Smith. Royal Delta, the defending champ, is back in her game today, and she's going to dominate in the Delaware Handicap. She's geared down in the final 16th. Royal Delta by 10. The champ is back.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Devil is still really tested here by West, and Pure Romer is coming up the inside, but it's still Devil his due with something left for the final 100 yards, and he comes under the line as a game winner of the 107th Suburban.
West Willpower pulling away, now by 2 with 1 furlong to go. Happy American, the longest shot on the board, running down inside. Rattle and Roll's coming with a fast finish as well. West Willpower needs the wire. Rattle and Roll can't catch West Willpower, the Foster winner.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Rolling on. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch, with you as always on this Saturday morning. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the program, that really insightful conversation, fun visit with Jockey Flavien Prat in the first hour of the program. My conversations about Delaware and looking ahead to the big races at Horseshoe Indy later today. If you missed any of that throughout the first 2 hours of the show, head back to the website, horseracingradio.net. Take a listen to the podcast whenever you get some time, and you can do that on every major podcast platform as well. Don't forget, too, you can follow us on social media. Many of you doing that here this morning for our poll question. That's at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. And the poll question, which of these 3 morning line favorites is most likely to win today? Verifying in the Indiana Derby, Skippy Longstocking in the Cornhusker, Charge It in the Suburban, or the Foxes in the Belmont Derby. Keep those votes coming, and I'll update them again later in the show if I get an opportunity to do so. That's at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. Hour 3 begins as it does every week with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History comes your way at 10:20, and at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer. Trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin going to be with me as they are every week to wrap up the show, and we'll debate some of the hottest topics in the sport today, including that extension on the suspension of trainer Bob Baffert on the part of CDI. Right or wrong? I will ask them that question coming up at 10:30. But first, time now to kick off Hour 3 with the TwinSpires Triple Play. And to do that, I welcome our good friend James Scully, who you catch every Thursday, 6 Eastern, on the Brisnet.com call-in show. James has selected 3 races for you to take a look at later today. James, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. It is a fantastic day of stakes action. Stakes-tastic, I guess, Saturday. That's even a promo we got going on at Brisk. But, yeah, I mean, lots of I think, stakes races at 6-7 tracks across the country today. We got promotions for a bunch of them at TwinSpires.com, so make sure you check our offers page there and opt in if you're playing any of those tracks. And, yeah, I'm going to preview 3 of the stakes races going on today, and I'm excited for this afternoon and evening's races.
I told you off air that I loved the 3 races you have selected because 2 of the 3, and maybe even that third one too, a real head scratcher for me when I was starting to sit down and handicap them. I think there's a lot of ways you can go, probably a lot of value to be had. We're going to start with the 10th race at Belmont, which features 11 horses in the Grade 1 Belmont Derby Invitational. We'll go to Horseshoe Indy for their 12th race, which is the Grade 3 Indiana Derby, and then we'll head to Prairie Meadows to take a look at race 8, the Grade 3 Cornhusker. But let's start with that race at Belmont Park, the Belmont Derby Invitational, 1.25 miles on the inner turf. Wide open field of 11, in my opinion. How'd you see it?
Yeah, it really is. It's a since they reinvigorated this turf series about 5 or 6 years ago, this Belmont Derby has been very attractive to Europeans. We've seen Eddie O'Brien ship in and win it in recent years. And even last year, there was a big upset with Classic Causeway recording a front-running win, but the runner-up and second and third place finisher had shipped in from Europe. So we have 2 horses that are based in Europe that will be in the field. One of them, obviously, Silver Knot, finished second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turfs, coming off a third in the Pennine Ridge at Belmont, so American audiences know him. But, Mike, I think it's a really deep 3-year-old American Turf division. I think that both Shad Brown horses, Redistricting and Calic, are very talented, and Farbridge and Webslinger have something going for them as well. Really outstanding field, but this is the top European the race has ever drawn is in this year's edition. It's number 11, the Foxes. He's one of the 5 best 3-year-olds in Europe, the Foxes, at a mile or longer distances. This is a colt that last year won the Royal Lodge Stakes at Newmarket, a big Group 2 race there. You know, the horse he beat that day, the runner-up, he came right back, won a Group 1. The horse that ran third came right back and won a Group 3. They're still banging around in the biggest races overseas, a really strong field. Came back this year, the Foxes did. Finished second to a good rival in his return, and then he won the Dante Stakes. The Dante Stakes, most important prep for the Epsom Derby. This year's field had not only the Foxes, but several other contenders for that race. White Birch, who ran second, wound up being third in the Epsom Derby. And the Foxes really recorded a nice win. It was his third win from his 4 previous starts. This horse is a top-class performer. And what happened to him last time, Mike? He stumbled out of the starting gate, and he was right in position with about a furlong remaining, about a length back in third. And his trainer, Andrew Balding, summed it up in interviews. The 1.5 mile distance was just a little bit too long for him. It was too far for him. They feel they're aiming for these American races because they're at 1.25 miles. They're Grade 1 events with huge purses, and it hits him right between the eyes. And one thing I really like about this colt, he took money in that 14-horse Epsom Derby field. The horse that won that, August Rodin, looks like one of the stronger winners in recent years of that races. So not only is he a top-class performer, but it looks like he's been running against some really nice horses as well this year and holding his own. And I think he's going to be too tough to beat. I will mention Redistricting. I was blown away by his debut win on June 3rd. I've told some other people, to me, it had the feeling of when Newspaper of Record broke her maiden. You just knew she was going to be a star at the way she did it, and Redistricting did it the same way. And if he didn't have the misfortune of running into a top-class Group 1 performer from England, he would be the horse to beat in the field. Farbridge, one concern with Far Bridge is that in that Pennine Ridge, he did not race. He didn't have his head on straight. He didn't want to run outside horses. He seemingly needs to be inside to run his best races, which isn't a real positive trait. I'm worried about the 1.25 mile distance with Silver Knot. Calic, I do respect his chances. He led wire to wire in the Pennine Ridge. He's going to be sitting second today, but behind Wizard of Westwood, you would figure. And he's going to be the horse to run down, I would think, at the top of the stretch. So I think the main players are from America are the two Chad Brown horses, Redistricting and Calic. But I'm going with the Foxes to prove best. I think because the race is so deep, 7-2 on the morning line, 3-1, even 5-2 is realistic. And I will bet him to win and bet him in some straight exactas over Redistricting and Calic.
No concerns over the outside post 11 going 1.25 miles on the inner turf.
Yeah, there's a little bit of concern. They put those rails down, and the inside tends to play better. Mm-hmm. But one thing about the Foxes, and Balding's talked about it, they don't really care where he sits. And if they want to hustle him a little bit to be a mid-pack, Osen Murphy is capable of doing that. They could drop out but to the back because it looks like there is some pace signed on, Mike, so it could get a little bit of speed. And if that's the case, then he'll be a little bit further back. He's going to have to work out a trip, don't get me wrong, but I do think that he's going to be good enough to do it.
Irish bred, the Foxes, the top pick for James Scully in the first of 3 TwinSpires triple play races for you here this morning. That is the 10th race at Belmont, the Grade 1 Belmont Derby Invitational. The morning line, by the way, 7-2 on the Foxes. Let's go to Horseshoe Indy. The 12th race is the Grade 3 Indiana Derby. James, this race is the race I was like, okay, well, I kind of know Verifying's in there. I think Ray's Kane can run a big race. I'm looking at a horse like, Hayes Strike is maybe being another possible contender in there. I don't know. What do you think? How'd you see this one? I'm looking at a few different ones, but how'd you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, as far as Race Kane and Hayes Strike and even Caglia Ostro, who comes off a good head second to Scotland. Scotland's a real promising horse, 3-year-old for Belmont. That was a good allowance race on June 3rd at Churchill. They're all confirmed closers. So if the pace melts down in the race, Mike, all of them could be in the mix from off the pace. One of my takes in this race that surrounds the morning line favorite, 8-5 Verifying. He's by Justify, a half-brother to Midnight Bisou. But I think we're seeing these Justifies have a little bit of potentially like distance limitations at further distances, be a lot of middle distance, talented runners he's thrown. And I think Verifying is going to be eventually running at one-turn sprints. I don't think he's a top-class two-turn performer in the 3-year-old division. I don't like the fact that in his 3 races where he's been competitive that were stakes races, the last 3 with the Matt Win, the Bluegrass, and the Champagne, he had the lead and upper stretch of all 3 starts and, gave it up. I mean, he got beat narrowly, but he gets beat narrowly. He just doesn't win. He's 0 for 6 in stakes races. And I think he's potentially vulnerable. One other thing about him, Mike, is Verifying likes to track the pace. The only race that he has been showing the way in since he broke his maiden was the Kentucky Derby. That was his worst effort. He likes to track the pace at second. That, I think, opens a window in here for number 1 Transect to take advantage, show speed from the inside, and pull an upset win in front-running fashion. This is a horse that's by Gunrunner out of Divine Escapade, who's a daughter of AP Indy and by AP Indy, and she's out of Madcap Escapade, who was a multiple Grade 1 winning, really classy female family. No surprise, sold for $300,000 as a weanling Transect did, and he has won his first 2 races impressively, Mike. Didn't get out of the gate extremely well in his debut, but won it easily. And then his second start at Turfway, he broke so sharply to the lead that day. I liked how he showed speed up from the gate after, it opened. At Aqueduct, his first stakes race, first dirt race, he caught a muddy track. He didn't get out of the gate. He never fired. But he came back last time in a pretty good allowance over the track at Horseshoe Indianapolis and led wire to wire. He went 24 and 4/5 seconds that afternoon, and then took all this pressure where he ran his second quarter in 23.1 seconds. And after he turned away those challengers, trash talking Yankee and Beaver Hat, he won going away. I thought that was a really beneficial, hard race that he needed off of that Gotham performance to move forward off of it. I think he will move forward significantly off of it. I think he's like a lot of these gun runners we see, they're going to get better as they get older and more experienced to them. And I think he's sitting on a big race from the inside with Geraldo Corrales. When the gates open, if he breaks like he did in that last race, I think he's going to be in front. And I think he has a chance to upset the Indiana Derby, number 1 Transect.
Yeah, great pick. 15-1 from the inside post is Transect in that Indiana Derby. For James Scully. All right, one more to go. That's the Grade 3 Cornhusker at Prairie Meadows. Race number 8, a field of 10 set to go to the post, and Skippy Longstocking from the barn of Saffy Joseph Jr. expected to take some money in here. 3-1 on the morning line. Is Skippy Longstocking beatable in this spot this afternoon?
I believe he is. He ran a good race. Definitely, he's run some good races in South Florida. I need to see him take that form on the road here off of that last effort in the Ben Live where he didn't run very well. I am glad, though, he's the morning line favorite. Can take some money. I think Warrant will take some money off of that 4th in the Brooklyn to next. But the horse to beat to me is number 3, Call Me Fast. This is a colt, Gelding did not break his maiden until October, his 3-year-old season last fall. Won a couple allowances at Oaklawn. First stake start, he missed the start, got in all kinds of trouble going in the first turn, never ran a step. Mike Puich, his trainer, made a very important equipment change off of that Grade 3 Essex. He took the blinkers off Call Me Fast. And to me, he has really responded with a pair of strong showings. Now, granted, he ran second both times to Rattle and Roll. But to me, Rattle and Roll is a horse to buy moving forward off of his fast-closing second in Stephen Foster last Saturday. I thought the wire came in time for West Willpower. I think Call Me Fast was just running against a really good horse. And the final thing I like about him is he's come back and he's worked twice very sharply, which signals to me that he is still in progressing form in a sense. He's still moving forward in a sense. And I think he's going to break through with his first stakes win in the Cornhusker Handicap tonight.
All right, yeah, great value there, too. 9-2 on the morning line. You think we get that price, or does it come down a little?
He took a lot of money early in that blame. It was funny. He was like sitting up there at like 5-2 or something, but he drifted up late. So even if he takes a little bit of money down, I'd wait and see because, Brad Cox and even the Skippy Longstocking's got a lot of name recognition. Even this, there's a couple other rivals in there, I thought, with with Frosted Grace for Diodoro. And 8 Life Grand on the far outside that could take some money. So I'm optimistic that he'll be like around 7-2 and therefore in the same vicinity as the morning line.
Okay, so the 3 races James has selected. Here are the recap of the 3 races for you and the 3 selections. The 10th at Belmont, the Grade 1 Belmont Derby Invitational. He'll go with number 11, the Foxes, the Irish bred, at odds of 7-2. At Horseshoe Indy, race 12, the Grade 3 Indiana Derby, his top pick is number 1, Transect, to pull off the upset, 15-1 on the morning line. And in the 8th at Prairie Meadows, the Grade 3 Cornhusker, another minor upset, if you will. He'll go with number 3, Call Me Fast, at odds of 9-2. And you can head over to TwinSpires.com to bet those 3 races any way you like. Just do it at TwinSpires.com. James, what special promotions are going on at Briss or TwinSpires? Anything new this weekend, or is it business as usual?
Oh, yeah, we have got some, at TwinSpires this weekend, we've got like some specials built in for the for the big racing at Horseshoe Indy. We've got a late pick $5,000 hit it and split it there. We've got hit it and split it at Ellis Park for their opening weekend. We have a daily leaderboard contest, daily jackpot on Saturday and Sunday at Los Al. I guess it isn't a cozy weekend there, but almost the cozy weekend. And we have an Indiana Derby money back promotion and other money back promotions. So like I said, check that offers page at TwinSpires.com and make sure you opt in.
There he is, James Scully. Catch him every Thursday, 6 to 7 Eastern with Bobby Newman on the Brisnet.com call-in show. Call in and talk racing with James, and as you can tell, he's on top of things. Fantastic work. James, appreciate it, man. Have a great weekend. Good luck at the windows.
Thanks so much, Mike, and best of luck to you and everybody listening.
All right, coming up next, it is Kurt Becker and his weekly Stroll Through Racing History, a story you won't want to miss. 10:30 Eastern, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin will both be with me to wrap up the show with I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There are plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet with live racing Friday through Sunday and simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. Come out and enjoy the Summit of Speed, the Florida Sire Stakes Series, and a whole lot more. Watch the action from our Trackside Carousel Club, our Feast in 10 Palms restaurant with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his third dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
Colonial Downs summer racing season is here. Weekend racing returns every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with a first post of 1:30 p.m. Back this year is our popular 12% takeout Pick 5, which is now offered twice daily. We're also introducing the all-new Old Dominion 6, a $1 traditional Pick 6 with a 15% takeout. Join us for our biggest days of the season on August 12th for the Colonial Downs Festival of Racing, which features the Grade 1 Arlington Million, and September 9th as we wrap up the season with the Virginia Derby. Colonial Downs, rich history, bright future.
Iowa's Festival of Racing at Prairie Meadows takes place on July 7th and 8th and features 8 thoroughbred stakes races. 4 great stakes races on Friday night, followed up by another 4 on Saturday, including the $250,000 Iowa Derby, the Grade 3 Iowa Oaks, and the Grade 3 Prairie Meadows Cornhusker Handicap. Post time for the first race on both days will be 6 p.m. Central. Experience the thrill of horse racing at Prairie Meadows, your favorite place to play. Visit prairiemeadows.com for more information.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He was never a superstar, but he loved racing in front of big crowds. In fact, he pulled upsets in stakes races at 2 of America's most prominent racetracks on days when record-breaking numbers of spectators were in attendance. His name was Steel Heels. Foaled in 1936, Steel Heels was a son of imported stallion Harry Baker out of the mare Fast Heels. His sire was unraced and was described as an unfashionable horse in terms of market appeal, while his dam won a total of $795. A Kentucky homebred racing for owner Junius Bell of Louisville, Steel Heels found success late in his 2-year-old season for trainer Frank Letellier. He first gained the attention of the press with a runner-up effort in the 1938 Queen City Handicap at Latonia in northern Kentucky, as the Cincinnati Enquirer called him the big surprise of the race. He won the West Point purse 5 weeks later on November 1st at Churchill Downs before returning in less than a week to finish second in the 19th running of the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes. The following spring, Steel Heels ran third in the Derby Trial at Churchill, a performance when coupled with his terrific morning workouts led some to call him a contender for the Kentucky Derby. Writing about the big brown colt, Bill Coram of International News Service said, "He's impressive in the mornings, but we still don't know if he could win a fat man's race at a picnic." Letellier admitted to owner Bell that he feared Steel Heels was not ready to run in the Derby. Instead, the colt would be entered for the Derby undercard in an allowance race at 6 furlongs, with United Press calling him the best bet of the day. But Steel Heels disappointed, running last of 8, and he would be sent to the sidelines for the remainder of the year. As a 4-year-old in 1940, Steel Heels returned to the races and pulled a mild upset at Washington Park in Chicago by capturing the featured Burr Oak purse on August 12th. It marked his first win in nearly 2 years. 2 months later, on October 8th, Steel Heels went to Keeneland Racecourse and served notice that he would be a factor among the older handicap division. Going to the post in Keeneland's opening day feature, the Lexington Handicap, Steel Heels won the 10-furlong race under jockey Al Snyder by rallying down the stretch at odds of 22-1. But it would be as a 5-year-old in 1941 that Steel Heels would enjoy his greatest success. On April 29th, Steel Heels won the Shawnee Park Purse at Churchill Downs at 1 1/16, and on May 10th at the same track, he took runner-up, beaten a half length in the Kentucky Handicap. On June 24th, Steel Heels shipped to Arlington Park and ran second to 1940 Kentucky Derby winner Galahadian at a distance of 7 furlongs. And then came Steel Heels' greatest performance. The date was July 4th, 1941. A record crowd of 50,000 had poured through the turnstiles at Arlington, where the featured race would be the Stars and Stripes Handicap. It was the largest crowd to attend the races in Chicago in nearly 20 years. The infield, the concrete terraces, the clubhouse lawn, and the grandstand were filled to capacity. Despite going to the post at odds of 32-1 in a 14-horse field, Steel Heels rallied down the lane and defeated Equifox and Galahadian in a 3-horse photo finish by a head. Al Snyder was once again the jockey, and a $2 mutual ticket returned $66. Steel Heels would add a win at Keeneland that fall in the Lexington Handicap, breaking the track record at 1 1/4 before capturing the Antebellum Handicap later in the meet at 1 9/16. He would also ship to New Orleans to compete at Fairgrounds, winning the Pontchartrain Handicap on Christmas Day. The following spring, in April of 1942, a Keeneland record crowd of 14,000 packed the grounds and wagered a record $221,000 as Steel Heels won the featured Ben Ally Stakes. But he made just 3 other starts on the year, and in 1943 he made his final appearance at the races by finishing 10th and last at Arlington in allowance company. Bell sold Steel Heels soon thereafter to Lucius and Elsie Birch as a stallion prospect, with the Memphis area couple stating that they wanted to bring world-class thoroughbred breeding to West Tennessee. Described by the Memphis Commercial Appeal as having beautiful conformation, lines that denote swiftness, and a head that indicates courage, Steel Heels sired just 13 named foals prior to his death on October 13, 1953, at the age of 17. As a racehorse, Steel Heels won 10 times in 49 career starts for earnings of $26,000. As a stallion, he sired just 5 winners. And yet he left a legacy as a horse which thrived in high-profile races in front of record-breaking crowds, including a race with a patriotic name on Independence Weekend some 82 years ago in Chicago. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There are plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet with live racing Friday through Sunday and simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. Come out and enjoy the Summit of Speed, the Florida Sire Stakes Series, and a whole lot more. Watch the action from our Trackside Carousel Club, our Feast in 10 Palms restaurant with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
Speaker's Corner is under a hand right here, and he's got a 6-length lead as they pass the 16th pole. Speaker's Corner in a dominating performance, winning the quarter, won it by 5.
Darley Stallion Speaker's Corner cruised to that brilliant 4.5-length victory in the 2022 edition of the Grade 1 Carter, earning an eye-popping 114 buyer. That win makes Speaker's Corner your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Speaker's Corner, the fastest by Street Sense, with the best buyer other than Flightline of the past 3 years. His first in-foal mares sell this year. Make a plan. Just imagine. To learn more about Speaker's Corner and all the Darley Stallions, visit DarleyAmerica.com.
Exciting stakes racing action continues at Delaware Park Casino and Racing. The $500,000 Grade 2 Delaware Handicap runs on July 8th, along with the $100,000 Dashing Beauty and the $150,000 Battery Park Stakes. Then the $150,000 Kent Stakes on the turf is 1 week later on July 15th. Play in the NHC qualifier that day to win cash prizes and a trip to the National Horse Players Championship. Visit DelawarePark.com for contest brochure and entry form, plus full live racing schedule.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
At the quarter pole, and it's Elm Drive on the inside of Ida. There's been little separating the pair all the way, and they're about 3 lengths clear. Mosa putting in a spurt down, the outsiders ranging after them, running a huge race. It's Elm Drive and Ida to the 16th pole, confronted by the 3-year-old Chismosa. Ida, Chismosa, Elm Drive the inside. Chismosa, Ida, Elm Drive, Ida! Ida just won from either Chismosa or Elm Drive in the Great Lady M of 2023.
That's Michael Rona with the call of Ida, tallying a 6th consecutive win in the Great Lady M Stakes at Los Alamitos. She did that on the 4th of July. A 6th win in a row for Ida, and 6 in a row is pretty good. Is it time for Zenyatta to start getting concerned? And is Churchill Downs Incorporated right or wrong in their decision to extend Bob Baffert's suspension? Plus, Dale and Tim take a look back on their favorite turf sprinters of all time. All of those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, and all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. It all starts just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
Okay, guys, every week we let listeners know that if they have questions for the two of you to debate, if they have a topic they want to hear you discuss, they can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and we will get those topics worked in for them. Last week, I believe we had 4 listener-submitted questions. This week, we have 2 more to kick things off, and they come from Edward, who emails the show and wants to ask you guys 2 specific questions. And Dale, I'll come to you first. The first one, he wants to know, is there a wagering terminal in the jockey's room? And number 2, after a horse is claimed, do the former owner, trainer, and or groom ever visit the horse in his or her new stable? So, Dale, you want those?
Yeah, I'll take them both. First of all, there's no terminal in the jockey's room, and the only way a jockey is supposed to bet is if he wants to bet, he can bring the money to the paddock, give it to the trainer, and have him bet on himself. And as far as the claiming goes, you know, over the years, I've had a few owners come and want to see their horses after they got claimed, and it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And, you know, they get attached to them, and they want to come and visit. And anytime if I have one, they're all welcome to come.
I didn't know that about a jockey coming to the paddock with money for a trainer in order to bet on themselves.
Yeah, that was always the old rule. I mean, I've never had one do it. I really don't know any of them that gamble.
Yeah, I can't either. But I didn't know that. That's really interesting. Timmy, how about for you? Obviously, no terminal in the jock's room.
Oh no, obviously, yeah, I've been into. Years ago, you could go into the jock's room and interview riders after stakes races, at least in New York. And I never saw can't do it anymore, but I've never seen a terminal, a betting machine in there for anything. And you know, even if they did, I mean, that might open up a huge can of worms if there was one in there for them. And like Dale said, I don't know of any jockey that even bets. It's they make the ones that win, they make money. They don't need to bet. So no, I've never seen it, and never would expect it to happen. And as far as the other one about the, you know, it's almost like you break up with an old girlfriend, you're going to go visit her? I don't think so.
I don't know. I could see where if you were attached to a horse and he got claimed or she got claimed and you wanted to go visit them in another stable, I could see doing that.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I've had people do it. You know, maybe they didn't like their ex-girlfriend, but most people like their horses or their pets.
Yeah, horses are kinder than ex-girlfriends, right?
Much kinder.
Dale, if Tammy gets claimed, are you going to visit her?
She ain't going anywhere. Hey, if she was, believe me, I've given her plenty of reason to go look for a claim, but she hasn't gone anywhere yet.
All right, Edward, we appreciate those 2 questions. Again, if you're listening to this show, so many of you have really taken a liking to I Ask, They Answer, and we appreciate you tuning in every week. If you have a question or a topic you want to ask Dale or Tim, email that question to me, mike@horseracingradio.net, and I will get it worked in for you in the weeks ahead. All right, topic number 2, the Jockey Club has set the agenda for their annual roundtable conference on matters pertaining to racing, which is going to take place in Saratoga on August 3rd. Timmy, if you were tasked with choosing which topics should be addressed at the conference, what are some of the top items you would like to see discussed?
Well, number 1 for me would be, we got to talk about these breakdowns that have occurred at the last Churchill meet, which was just a horrible thing for the sport, and the perception was horrible. No one ever wants to see a horse go down. We all know that it is part of the game, and that's unfortunate, but I would think that that's something that the industry leaders have to talk about and do whatever they can to ensure that it doesn't happen anymore, even though it will happen, because that's it's part of the game. But I think that's something that has to be addressed. Something else I think that we've talked about on this show in the past is a better way to market the game, to see you get more fans into this game. I mean, there's always fans at horse racing during the Triple Crown. There's fans of horse racing at the Keeneland meets. There's fans of horse racing at Saratoga and Del Mar. But I think you have to have a year-round marketing ploy to get people more interested in this, because it really is a beautiful game to people that watch it and participate in it. And it never hurts to get fresh blood, new blood involved. And I think that would be something that I would want to see discussed.
Those would be good topics. Safety should always be number one on the list. I would like for them to discuss more of the stride safe sensors we've talked about on the show that we're using to try to predict before a horse gets hurt. And I'd like to see a little more of that talked about. And also the revenue streams from the ADWs. That'd be real complicated. That'd be a whole show one day to talk about how the money's divided when people bet on the ADW platforms and how much of it comes back into the racing population and how much leaves. I think those are, financial topics and safety topics.
Yeah, I like both of those. Timmy, I like yours too. I think those are important. Maybe one other topic that could be discussed is a way in which racing could include a commissioner at the top of the tree there to oversee everything. It's something that's talked about quite often. Mike Rapoli is going to join me on this show at some point, and we'll talk to him. Dale, you're probably going to be part of that conversation, but I think that would be interesting too. It gets a lot of attention in the media, but it never seems to happen. Maybe the time has come to actually have a discussion about how to go about including a commissioner for our sport.
Well, I think talking about it is fine, but they got to act on it. I mean,
right.
This is something that has to happen. It's all fine and good to say, yeah, we need a commissioner, but it's not going anywhere until they actually do it. And that's one of the great mysteries to me. When will that happen? Hopefully it'll happen, before I go into the dirt nap.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
we definitely need one, but that's a much tougher task than it sounds like.
I hope we have plenty of time to figure this thing out before Timmy gets that dirt nap. Let's hope we've got a long time to figure it out, but let's hope it happens sooner rather than later. All right, it is time in the show, that time of the show where we say hello to our good friend, Hall of Fame trainer Nick Zito, and we find out if the following statements are right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
All right, two of these topics for you guys today. Number one, Churchill Downs Incorporated announced this past week that they are going to extend their suspension of trainer Bob Baffert through the end of the 2024 calendar year. Is this decision on the part of CDI right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
Dale, you've always had Bob's back. What do you think?
I think it's ridiculous. I don't think they ever should have been involved in regulating the sport. They just run the sport. They have their tracks, but we have regulatory bodies to take care of violations, and they should have left it up to the Kentucky State Racing Commission all along. And I'd like for them to explain their statement of why. Don't be so general. Tell us exactly what Bob's done wrong during his suspension that makes it look like he needs to be off another year. It's time to bring him back. Derby 150 is coming up. If you love him or hate him, he's a huge part in the sport and the biggest part of the Kentucky Derby in our generation. He should have been back for 150.
I agree 100% with Dale. He got the 2-year suspension, did his time, and when that suspension ended, a couple days ago, it should have been over. He did his time, and then to just say, okay, we're going to change our minds and give him another year. I mean, there's definitely a personality. They have a problem with Bob and his personality. I think they don't like the fact that that he comes into Kentucky and wins all their races. And when they had the black eye with all those breakdowns, it seems to me that they wanted to take some attention off of that. So hey, let's give Bob Baffert another year. It's ridiculous. It's unfair, and it's just it's sickening to me that they give him another year when he's already, supposedly, actually done his time. It's just ridiculous, and it's disgusting. I just think that Churchill Downs has some major problems with it. I can't stand it.
Yeah, certainly seems as if they've gone too far with this decision here, and we'll see where it goes from here if Bob Baffert tries to get back in the door. It doesn't sound like that door is going to open again, but we'll see if it does. All right, topic number 2. On the 4th of July, 4-year-old filly Ida tallied her 6th consecutive victory in the Grade 2 Great Lady M Stakes at Los Alamitos. It was the 3rd greatest stakes score within that win streak for the daughter of Munnings. 6 in a row is pretty good, guys. So if I were to say that it is time for Zenyatta to start worrying, would I be right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
Tim?
Man, I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid you're drinking. I
thought you would like this question.
That's, Zenyatta is one of the all-time greats. There's no question about this. She won her first 19 starts then. Would have had 20. And that great rally she had just came up a lip short in the Breeders' Cup Classic with Blame. And John Sheriffs did an outstanding job with Zenyatta, who's, her record speaks for itself. And Ida, she's not a bad horse at all. Her 6, but she also hasn't raced a lot. I mean, it's she went like almost 2 years over a year without running, and she's won a little bit like Zenyatta. She wins only by what she has to win by. But to say that she's going to roll the table and run the table and win 13 more, I don't see it. Zenyatta's in rare air. Ida's like a very good racehorse, but she's not Zenyatta.
You're talking about a fine race mare, but 2 different leagues there. Zenyatta doesn't have anything to worry about for quite a while. I don't know if there'll ever be one come along and do what she did.
6 wins, 3 greatest stakes wins. Just win, baby. That's all Ida does. 13 starts to go before she can equal Zenyatta. 13 consecutive wins before she can equal Zenyatta. We'll see if she can even come close. But I think I agree with you guys. I threw that one in there for some fun, but I don't think Zenyatta has anything to worry about, at least at this point. All right, that is right or wrong. We're going to do it all over again next week with Dale and Tim, and our good friend Nick Zito will be with us to help us out. One more topic before we get to our West Point of the week, and this one should be fun too. 23 years ago today, General Express set a world record when he went 5 furlongs on the turf in 54.60. That was in the Decathlon Stakes at Monmouth. That lowered the previous best time of 54.97 that was set by Classy Briefcase at Monmouth June 8th of 1991. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I believe Pay Any Price is the current world record holder for 5 furlongs on turf when he won the 2017 edition of the Silks Run Stakes at Gulfstream in 53.61. So, Tim, let me come to you first. Who are some of your favorite turf sprinters of all time, and how come?
The turf sprinters isn't the sexiest, category that we have in racing. The gates open and these horses run as fast as they can for those sprint distances. It's like, watching the track and field runners go run the 100. But I can't, some of the ones that I've always admired from what they've done. I remember Golden Pal for Wesley Ward. He won a pair of Breeders' Cup races, juvenile turf sprint, and then he in 2020, and then he won the turf sprint in 2021. Even the horse right now, Caravel, has won 5 straight. He's a pretty good sprinter. In the Breeders' Cup turf sprint, which, it hasn't been around that long. I think, 08? there's been 2 horses that I remember doing pretty good things in that. Misdirection won it twice, 2012 and 13. Stormy Liberal had a repeat in 2017 and 2018. I admire what these horses can do, but they don't seem to get the credit or the headlines that, the horses that, the Triple Crown horses, the older horses that, run in races like the Whitney and such. But, those are some of the ones that I can remember that stuck out to me. I didn't go way back on this one.
Yeah, they used to not run near as much as they do now. It seems like it's become a trend. People kind of like it. It's I always said in turf sprints, there's one winner and 7 or 8 that probably should have won. The Stormy Liberal, he was a tough old horse and one of my favorites. And you're right, that's a tough race on a horse. It's probably harder on a horse to run 5/8 a mile than it is to run a mile and a quarter, because they're hauling from gate to wire, and it's like a drag race almost, where they just zip around there. But if one can dominate in that class, then they're a darn good horse, and Stormy Liberal was one of them.
Dale, one thing that always strikes me when I watch a sprint race on the turf like that is the fact that many times they're won by a horse who comes from off the pace, and I've talked about it on this show many times. Is that because of the fact that they do go so balls to the wall early and so fast early that it sets up for horses to come from far back?
Oh, you're right about that, and that's exciting to see. But the reason is you're not going to be in one of those races that isn't packed with speed. So they're always hauling from the time they leave there, and it does set it up for a good closer. And I think that's the most exciting turf sprint, is when you have one of those that comes from behind and blows past everybody the last 1/8 of a mile.
Those races are certainly jockey races.
Yeah, they are. They are. You better be a good jock riding those races.
Now, there have been some good ones. Misdirection, Stormy Liberal, Glass Slippers, Golden Pal, Caravel, as we just talked about. Mongolian Saturday was pretty good, too, in that particular division. And I wanted to bring that topic up, guys, because we don't often talk about the turf sprinters. I think they deserve some respect. They're specialists at what they do, and I'm glad we got a chance to recognize some of those horses on this program here today. All right, it is time to wrap up the show with our West Point of the Week, presented by West Point Thoroughbreds. Great to have our friends at West Point back for the next several weeks. Experience the lifestyle of thoroughbred racehorse ownership with the gold standard in racing partnerships for more than 30 years. West Point Thoroughbreds. And here's what you do. Text the word horse to 66866 to learn about ownership, and they will walk you through everything you need to know. That's horse to 66866. Text it now. Message and data rates may apply. All right, gentlemen. Tim, kick it off. What is your West Point of the Week?
Geez, a week from today, we're into Saratoga already. And that means, I'm assuming that the second edition of our fantasy stable is going to start. And I kind of looking forward to winning that again.
Good luck. I'm going to work this time at it. I'm going to do some good drafting this time. But my West
can't
Point
be any
of the
worse than you did last time.
I was on the lead all the way. You nailed me on the wire.
Wow, I won going away. I won by 5 lengths.
You were one. Yeah, I was the turf sprinter that got caught. My West Point of the week is I'm in Des Moines, Iowa, at Prairie Meadows Racetrack. And if anybody hasn't been here that likes horse racing, it's worth taking a trip. It's a great little city, and it's a nice little racetrack. And last night, Dennis Allball was put into the Hall of Fame of Prairie Meadows, and I want to just say congratulations to him. But it's a beautiful little place, and anybody likes racing ought to try it out.
Yeah, amen to that. Dale, good luck in the Cornhusker later today, and good luck at the windows, Timmy.
Yep. Thank you, and we will see everyone soon.
Timmy, see you in a few days.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we are going to do it all over again next week, but I do want to remind listeners that we are going to include a listener in our I Ask, They Answer Showdown 2. You'll have a chance to compete with Dale and with Tim, and here's what you do. If you're interested, send me an email, mike@horseracingradio.net. Tell me why you want to compete against Dale and Tim in the Showdown 2. It's going to begin the first Saturday in August. You have about 2 weeks to send those emails to me, and on July 29th, we will invite a listener to join us here on I Ask the Answer. We'll do a draft. You'll select 5 horses. That will be your team all the way through the Breeders' Cup World Championships from August 5th to the Breeders' Cup. So send an email to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net. Let me know why you want to take on Dale and Tim in the Showdown 2. We will select one listener on the program next week, and that listener drawn at random is going to be the contender to take on Dale, Tim in the Showdown number 2. If you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim debate, you can email that to me as well. This is I Ask the Answer, presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony. Hey, Matthew. There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Well, John, the stage is set for the final transaction.
That's right, Joe. Heather's moment has arrived, and you just hope all that training pays off.
Heather lays down her purchase, but Randy rings it up as slowly as he can.
He is a wily veteran.
It gives Heather's eyes the chance to wander.
Uh-oh.
Yep, she's looking at the cigarettes.
There's nothing good back there. Quit now, and in 5 years, your odds of getting certain cancers drop 50%.
Meanwhile, Randy's stone-faced. He's giving nothing away. He just stands there, wetting his cashier's finger on that sponge.
Heather toes the rubber.
Here we go. Heather's arm is in motion. But instead of pointing at the back wall, she just grabs the gum off the counter.
That's a slick move.
Heather back. She is out of there. Even Randy tips his cap to Heather. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally wants you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
My battle buddies and I attended the NHL Stadium Series at Yankee Stadium. We had never been there before, and 2 of us had never seen a hockey game. Man, we had the time of our lives. It was great therapy. VetTix, we can't thank you enough.
Every empty seat at a concert, a game, motorsports, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can help. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Find out how by visiting www.vettix.org. That's www.vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show on Sirius 216, XM 204, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, don't forget that the July issue of Blood Horse Magazine features 138 pages, including Fostering Family Ties, which is a story by Lenny Schulman focused on the Cawthon brothers, Labor of Love, John Sakura transforming Hillendale at Alapa into an amazing showplace. Alicia Hughes did the honors with that story. And My Racehorse, My Story. Walker Buehler, a 2-time All-Star pitcher with the Los Angeles Dodgers, steps up to the plate as a My Racehorse owner. All of those stories and much, much more in the July issue of Blood Horse Magazine. You can download a copy right now from the Blood Horse Magazine tablet app via the App Store or Google Play, or subscribe today at bloodhorse.com/subscribe. And when you do subscribe to Blood Horse Magazine, you're going to get a free Blood Horse Plus membership, which is a $50 value. Just go to bloodhorse.com/subscribe. covered a lot of ground on today's show, didn't we? Flavien Prat kicked it off at 8:15. Got a chance to talk to him about the huge weekend last week in Ellis Park, and then, of course, his 5 wins coming on the July 4th program at Belmont Park. He also looked ahead to today's races and his mounts in all the big stakes races at Belmont. Hunter Sims from Warrendale was with me to take a look at the Fasig-Tipton July sale and their consignment. And also, one of the things that really struck me about that conversation with Hunter was the way he described what it's like being a consignor and doing what they do. They don't have a farm, so they rely on their clients to get the horses ready from that respect. But then when they get the horses in for their consignments, how they go about presenting the horses and how they go about selecting the horses that are going to go to the different sales. Is it Fasig July? Is it Fasig Saratoga? Is it the Keeneland September sale? How do they place those yearlings? If you missed that conversation, it was extremely insightful. Go back and listen on the podcast. Got a chance to talk about racing at Delaware Park and Horseshoe Indy. Got a chance to recognize our unsung hero. And then, of course, my thanks to James Scully for giving us the TwinSpires triple play. He selected 3 stakes races, 3 graded stakes coming up later today, and gave you a selection for each of those, including a bomb in the Indiana Derby. And when I say a bomb, I mean a huge price in that race. I expect that horse to even be higher, but James selected that horse. Go back and listen to the podcast to hear his selections. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History, and my thanks to Dale and Tim for I Ask, They Answer. Again, if you missed any portion of the show, you know what to do. Just head back to our website, horseracingradio.net. Listen to the podcast whenever you get some time. You can do that on every major podcast platform as well. My thanks to all of you who took time to weigh in on the poll question today on our social media pages at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and to all of you who tuned in to the Equine Forum this morning and every single week. Thanks for being with me. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, to Chauncey for handling all of our social media again this week. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening. Good luck at the windows, and go Steelers.